Keep your wellness routine going strong all summer. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition wherever you are, with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and more. Simplify your daily ritual. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
I know this pain. Why do you lock yourself up in these chains? No one can change your life except for you. Don't ever let anyone step all over you. Just open your heart and your mind. Is it really fair to feel this way inside? Oh, someday somebody's gonna make you wanna turn around and say goodbye. Until then, baby, are you gonna let him hold you down and make you cry? Don't you know?
I will never tell you a lie. And the truth of the matter is, gosh, do I like that song. Always have. From Wilson.
Keep your wellness routine going strong all summer. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition wherever you are, with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and more. Simplify your daily ritual. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
Phillips, Hold On, went number one on this day in 1990. So 36 years ago, Wilson Phillips, number one on your U.S. singles charts with that song right there. Here is a really interesting piece of trivia.
When maintaining your daily wellness rituals is important to you, the change in routine during the summer can feel daunting. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual, even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition, with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and much more. So you'll be fueled and ready for wherever life or your summer adventures take you. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. But you can try it for yourself because the variety pack includes all 6 delicious fan favorites: chocolate, vanilla, chai, matcha, coconut acai, and strawberry. So instead of worrying about sticking to your daily ritual, simplify it with Kachava. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
Connected to that 25 years earlier to the day. So we take you back to 1965 on this day, June the 9th, 1965. Beach Boy Brian Wilson had the number one hit with Help Me, Rhonda. And of course, Brian's...
When maintaining your daily wellness rituals is important to you, the change in routine during the summer can feel daunting. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual, even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition, with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and much more. So you'll be fueled and ready for wherever life or your summer adventures take you. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. But you can try it for yourself because the variety pack includes all 6 delicious fan favorites: chocolate, vanilla, chai, matcha, coconut acai, and strawberry. So instead of worrying about sticking to your daily ritual, simplify it with Kachava. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
Daughters, Wendy and Carney Wilson, part of Wilson Phillips, 25 years to the day, go number one with Hold On. So Help Me, Rhonda by the Beach Boys on this day in 1965. And then the daughter of one of those Beach Boys, the daughters of one of those Beach Boys, went number one on this day in 1990, Wilson Phillips and Hold On. It is Tuesday, the 9th of June. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for stopping by, spending some of your valuable time with us. We know it's the most valuable commodity that you have, and it really matters that you spend some time here engaging with us in conversation. Very much appreciate it. I don't think I say it often enough, so thank you. The minute we begin the show every day, of course, as you know, our phone lines are open at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I mentioned with Christine Clark just a moment ago how excited I was, not just that the Farwell for Hire 50/50 jackpot is growing, because that means money for cystic fibrosis research, which is really the point. I kind of like the fact, though, that we're able to give you a little bit of money as well, or as this jackpot grows, probably a lot of money. But selfishly, as this jackpot grows, I think that I'm going to be able to eat a butter tart. I mean, I don't know, later today? Might I get there later today? Our jackpot has just climbed above $69,000. That means the take-home prize is just above $34,500. And as you may know, when the jackpot reaches $70,000 or a take-home prize of $35,000, I am once again able to enjoy a butter tart. One of my absolute favorite things. You can ask anybody here at the radio station if I mean it when I say it, and I do. And my colleagues here at 570 News Radio would understand, because I get so many butter tarts, like so many. I honestly, if I ate them all, I would be in a whole heap of trouble. But I'm on like a multiple butter tart a week habit over here. And the extras I bring in and share with my coworkers. But anyway, it's been a long time since I've been able to enjoy one of those truly Canadian delicacies. And I look forward to that jackpot getting up to $70,000. I bet you it'll get there before the end of the show today. $69,155 right now. So if we do $845 in sales, I might just put in an Uber Eats order for a butter tart to be delivered here to the station. You can get a ticket at cf5050.ca. And if you get that ticket today or anytime this week before Friday at noon, you are eligible for our early bird draw of $1,500 in cash. No questions asked. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You can have $1,500 in cash straight from the Better Business Bureau into your pocket if you buy your tickets before Friday at noon. So there's another incentive for you as well. I can eat a butter tart. You can win the early bird prize. And even if you win that $1,500 cash in the early bird prize this Friday, you are eligible still for the big jackpot when it's awarded. Your numbers stay in there. Or should I say your I was going to say your number, but if you buy multiple, obviously, your numbers stay in the draw for the big jackpot, and you could win $1,500 in cash from the Better Business Bureau. That is our early bird prize this Friday to be awarded to you. When I was listening to All News Mornings this morning, as I'm sure you were as well, and I heard our reporter Josh Piercy talking about another development, another high-rise development, this one set for Waterloo, approved by council last evening, adding almost 3,000 units to the city. Look, this is the era in which we live. I've said this many times. You want a condo, we got a condo for you. You want a condo, you get a condo. You want a condo, you too can have a condo. We build an awful lot of these condos. But as I was listening to that this morning, I recalled yesterday a phone call that we got during our talkback hour, and Tammy was pretty upset with something that's going on in her neighborhood.
My rent is, I'm very sad about the Krug Street Plaza. They may be going to break it down.
The Krug Street Plaza, they're maybe going to break it down. Well, Tammy, it turns out, is right about this. I mean, insofar as there is a development proposed for 501 Krug Street in Kitchener. That is the site currently of the Krug Street Plaza. I would say the anchor in that strip plaza is probably the bingo center. Lots of people like to go and dab their bingo cards. But what is being proposed at 501 Krug Street in Kitchener is 4 different apartment buildings, each 6 stories in height, 232 total units of housing, more than 300 parking spaces, and a public park included on the site. But what is right now a strip mall with a bingo center, a convenience store, there's a pizza place in there, a little bit of street front retail. The land is being proposed for 4 buildings, maximum 6 stories in height, 232 units of housing, and 301 parking spaces. So I know folks in the Rosemount neighborhood have been made aware of this because they have in turn made me aware of what they've been made aware of. And there is a virtual meeting happening via Zoom on the 24th of this month. So if you are interested, and again, the city delivers these notices right to the immediate neighborhood. So those who will be impacted most, because it's happening in your neighborhood, have the opportunity to attend these neighborhood meetings. So 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 24th. That is 2 weeks from tomorrow. And there you go again. I mean, I don't know, condominiums, but apartment units, whatever, what is now a strip mall will become a series of 4 apartment buildings at 501 Krug Street in Kitchener. That's the proposal. What it ultimately looks like remains to be seen. It will have to go through the various approvals at council. But Tammy called yesterday, and that was her concern, and she is on the money when it comes to that. So 2 weeks tomorrow, virtual public meeting, 4 apartment buildings where currently some street front retail exists in Kitchener. Let's get to the phones. Paul is with us early this Tuesday morning. Farwell's Force, member number 211. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Mike. I heard you on the butter tarts, and I wanted to keep it light this morning. I happened to be out for supper with my brother-in-law last night, who is a salesman, and he has most of Ontario as his jurisdiction. And the butter tart scenario came up last night, and I don't know if you've heard about this place, but I know you're a connoisseur, so I thought I had to pass it on. He tells me that there's a place, it's not the Zehrs store, but Zehrs is the name, it's a market. I think he said they might have been Amish or something. Anyway, it's in between Bayfield and Goderich, and he said they are undoubtedly the best butter tarts he has ever had.
Really?
Throw it past you, yes.
Okay.
So you need to take a trip up there. If you haven't tried it, he said you need to take a trip up there.
Between Bayfield and Goderich, so along Highway 21?
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
I have a Google. I can find it, Paul.
Yeah, check it out, Mike.
All right, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate that. There's another Zehrs that made me think of when Paul started talking about that, just outside Millbank, right? We passed that. That was our longtime route up to the cottage in Port Elgin. And there's a Zehrs right in there, too, just as we come past Millbank, heading into wherever we go next. It's a bunch of little towns on the way, but I've always driven to the cottage in Port Elgin, even though we don't have it as a family anymore, the exact same way my dad drove to the cottage in Port Elgin. You just kind of keep those family traditions, I suppose. Anyway, I will be sure to check that out. I have had the privilege, our old, late, great friend on this program, Paul from Preston, was very fond of the butter tarts up at Doodoo's in Baileyborough, not far from Peterborough. And when Paul from Preston would go up to Rice Lake, he would almost always come back with some butter tarts for me. Just one of the reasons I loved that guy, and I still miss him to this day. But yes, I have been so fortunate as to have had numerous butter tarts from bakeries across this land. And that's because of my love for them and your support. How about the Bellwood General Store or Country Market right there at Bellwood Lake is a beautiful spot. But one of my favorites, and again, I would never steer you wrong. I would never tell you an untruth. One of my favorites is from the Sweet and Savory Pie Company. They've got a storefront in Uptown Waterloo, right along King Street, and another in the Blackstone Plaza at Bridge and Northfield. These butter tarts are unreal. I love them. I like my goo a little bit on the runnier side. These have that. It's a great pastry around them. And if you haven't tried them before, you'd like to try it out. Once again this year, I think this is year number 4, could be even 5. I lose track of the number of years I've had support from people like Diane and Henry at the Sweet and Savory Pie Company, Just Love Pie in Waterloo. But they are once again this year donating $2 for every dozen butter tarts sold at their store to our Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign, or $1 for every half dozen. So I don't know why you'd only want half a dozen butter tarts, but by all means, get out there, get it in you, and then you're supporting Farwell for Hire at the same time. Sweet and Savory Pie Company, butter tarts, $2 from every dozen being donated to our fundraiser.
1, 2.
All right, let's go from 2 to 5, okay, for your Farwell Show 5 this Tuesday morning. Number 1, St. Jacobs residents want upgrades to the rail crossing in the south end of their village so that loud whistles that frequently pierce the air are eliminated. The Waterloo Central Railway uses the tracks daily. CN uses them for freight overnight. And with no stop arms for the crossing at road level, the trains must, by law, sound their horns several times upon approach to the level crossing. This includes in the overnight hours. Woolwich Council will consider the issue at its meeting tonight. And when you think about the growth in St. Jacobs, this is something that is probably overdue. It's also not something that'll happen overnight when you consider all of the various jurisdictions that have to get involved, right? We've got a regional road we're talking about. You're going to need the rail lines involved in this. So there's some federal bureaucracy to work through, and then you've got your township council. But it will be considered at Woolwich Council tonight. Number 2, how big a problem are unpaid property taxes? Well, Camilla called our show yesterday to say she is less concerned with Cambridge Mayor Jan Liggett's behavior in the city and more concerned with property taxes that are past due.
I think my biggest concern over anything is I sit on the Cambridge Advisory Board, and I'd like to know why the city is owed over $59 million in back property taxes. That's more concerning to me than what happened last week.
Well, if it's $59 million in Cambridge, how about in Kitchener, where 12,000 notices have been mailed out aiming to collect $84 million in taxes owed since May the 1st. Last year, Kitchener sent 11,000 notices. So that marks a 9% increase in overdue taxes year over year in Kitchener. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, it's likely little surprise to learn that this May was our coolest since 2020. That according to the monthly recap from the E.D. Soulis weather station at the University of Waterloo. The station says the overall monthly average temperature for May was about 1 full degree cooler than normal, with a low of minus 1.5 recorded on May the 12th. Precipitation for May was close to normal. Number 4, Ottawa has begun public consultations on the fate of Toronto's Island Airport. Transport Canada says it is seeking feedback on issues such as noise, environmental and economic considerations, and quality of life in nearby communities. It says all Canadians are welcome to participate online or by mail by July the 24th. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Stanley Cup final shifts to a pivotal Game 4 today as Vegas holds a 2-1 series lead over Carolina. A win for the Golden Knights would put them just 1 victory away from the coveted Stanley Cup, while the Hurricanes could even the series and take back home ice advantage.
A Monday warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
Can I have
2 liters of pop? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Well, what's more healthy, 4 beers or 2 liters of Coca-Cola? Do the math.
That is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. And just thinking on that Stanley Cup, which resumes tonight, I want to give a shout out this morning, and a very deserving one, to the U15 KW Rangers ball hockey team. They are the 2025 ball hockey national champions. First time in 21 years we have had a national ball hockey champion from our community right here in the region of Waterloo. Got a chance, thanks to Farwell for Hire and the Kitchener Minor Hockey Association, to be out with this group of fine young athletes at Lions Arena in Kitchener last night to award them their championship rings. We had a nice little ceremony. I loved it. It was great to see these young men and celebrate the success that they had, bringing a national ball hockey championship back here to the region. I'm starting to wonder if we are here in the region of Waterloo now, maybe specifically, well, no, because we've got the Sutherland Cup, Cambridge Redhawks, right? Are we a region of champions? The Sutherland Cup for the Redhawks, the Memorial Cup for the Kitchener Rangers, and a national ball hockey championship for the U15 KW Rangers. Attaway, UKW Rangers. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is your morning wake-up call. And let me tell you, this one woke me up even while I was 4 provinces away. And I'm pretty fired up about it. I will, again, never tell you a lie. I'm so fired up about this, I feel like I might even be inspired to break a promise I once made to you. We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, I have no idea what the folks at On-Site Computer Services in Kitchener are trying to do to me. I'm trying to be all worked up and angry over here. And then I get this email from Phil at On-Site Computer Services on McIntyre Drive in Kitchener. And Phil and the team at On-Site Computer Services bought the necessary 50/50 tickets at cf5050.ca to put us over the top, if you will. The jackpot is now worth more than $70,000. The take-home prize is worth more than $35,000. And to top it all off, Phil says they're going to be dropping off a fresh batch of butter tarts to the office momentarily. I don't know what to say about you, On-Site Computer Service, but thank you. Thank you very much for not only indulging my sweet tooth, but for increasing that overall jackpot in the Farwell for Hire 50/50 raffle. Very much appreciated. And I say this every year during the campaign. I don't know why I'm surprised anymore at any of the things that happened during this campaign. We've got TLC Pet Food with a matching donation up to $10,000, the Father's Day Challenge for donations directly to our Farwell for Hire fund. That came out of the blue. We've got a $1,500 early bird prize from the Better Business Bureau coming up this Friday, and you can buy your tickets before Friday at cf5050.ca. You're eligible for that. And now here we are with On-Site Computer Services rounding up that jackpot and getting us to the point where I can once again eat a butter tart. Okay, on the serious note, because I want to follow through on the promise I made to tell you what's got me pretty fired up and what might make me break a promise I once made to you. I've since come down a little bit, but my initial thought, I had almost recorded a video about this from Kelowna. I was so fired up with our Ontario Superior Court decision that will allow the encampment at Weber and Victoria to remain. I have no ill will towards those folks who are living at Weber and Victoria because that is their place with no other place to go. What gets me fired up is, first of all, we could have used existing bylaws for trespassing to remove that encampment a long, like this is years now, 5 years in the making. We could have done it had we had the political will many, many years ago before this encampment became as entrenched as it is. So even the fact that it became a court issue was quite a big boo-boo on our part here locally. But over and above that, and you heard Ontario Premier Doug Ford talking about the cockamamie decision, and maybe we should have some of these folks in the encampment go put their tents in this judge's backyard, et cetera, et cetera. What I can't understand here is how Ontario Premier Doug Ford is going to talk like that when, quite frankly, the province is one of the biggest failures in this regard. Where are the supports? Where is the housing? Where are the mental health and public health supports so that these folks have options other than living on a street corner? Our region cannot do it by itself. Like no region in this entire country can do it by itself. So I'm calling on the federal government as well. And I'm glad that Canada's big city mayors did that last week. They're asking for $3.5 billion from the feds to help address chronic homelessness. Because I'll tell you something, you can't build pipelines, you can't build your economy and do all these other things when you've got the foundation in your cities crumbling. And what we see at Weber and Victoria in Kitchener is what we see in communities clear across this land. I saw it in Kelowna. I see it in every city I travel to in the Ontario Hockey League. And I was so fired up, I was going to tell you, you know what? The promise I'll break is that I'm going to run for office. Like, I'll do it this October, because anybody that wants to come here and cut a ribbon provincially or federally, if I was elected locally, I would say, hey, where's the money for homelessness? Like, you got to beat this drum to death. We need every level of government engaged in this. It's got to be one of our highest priorities. It really does, because you can have all the fancy new condos you want. You can build all the new highways you want. You can build all the pipelines you want. If your cities are crumbling, you ain't got nothing. Nothing. I'm so upset about this. I'm not really going to run for office. But I would like to threaten it, because we need, listen, to our municipal leaders, anytime a federal or provincial representative wants to hand out money or cut a ribbon, you say, yeah, as long as you're bringing money for homelessness. We need every level of government involved in this. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
The question isn't whether AI will transform our lives. It will. AI is already changing how we work, how we learn, and how we connect. The question is, will it improve the lives of all Canadians or benefit only a few? And that's why we must take a positive, pragmatic, and prudent approach that builds safe, reliable, and sovereign AI for workers and businesses, for Canada, and for our allies.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That, of course, is our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, talking about Canada's AI strategy. Just in that 35-second clip, did anything strike you as missing from the statement? Let's talk a little bit more about this direction that Canada is taking. Hadrian Mertens-Kirkwood is a senior researcher with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives and joins the show this morning. Hadrian, good morning.
Hi.
Do you find anything missing from Canada's AI strategy at the moment?
All sorts of stuff. And partly that's the challenge of talking about AI. Is AI means kind of nothing and everything, because it's a whole bunch of different technologies that have implications everywhere. But yeah, there are some really big things missing. The first one being no mention of copyright. You know, if you ask people, what are they worried about with AI? There's going to be a lot of answers, but I would say copyright's probably in the top 10. Environmental impacts, probably in the top 10. Things like cognition, mental health might be in the top 10. None of that stuff makes it into this strategy. So it's not that none of the risks and concerns are addressed, but a lot of them sure are missing.
When you talk about environment, I've read considerably on this front, and that is when it comes to these big data centers, they use an awful lot of resources, and we're starting to see pushback against that in some communities, aren't we?
We're seeing it especially in the U.S. because that's where they're a few years ahead of us on this data center build out. But yeah, really big community impacts, environmental impacts, impacts on electricity rates. So folks are worried about that and really starting to push back. And that fight is just starting in Canada as we're starting to get more proposals for data centers and local communities, governments starting to push back a little bit as well.
And when it comes to copyright, one of the other issues you identified, Hadrian, as a big one, I have to think that comes from somebody who has created content. Maybe it's a publication, a newspaper or otherwise that publishes stories, and then AI just hacks from that without any sort of benefit to or credit for the originating source.
That's right. So most of these big new AI models, like the things behind, ChatGPT and Gemini, these text models, these image models, they're basically trained on the entire internet. They go and read the whole internet, everything that's ever been published, every image on there, every video. They chew it up and find patterns and spit out new outputs. But they didn't ask permission to use all that stuff. And so there's a lot of, sure, some of it's in the public domain, but a lot of it is copyrighted material that these models had no permission to train on. And they know, these companies know that, but they took a sort of better to beg forgiveness than ask permission sort of approach. Went ahead and built these models without, notifying creators, without compensating creators. And yeah, a lot of artists, writers, and so on, they're upset about that because their work was taken to train these models. And now it's threatening their jobs.
When it comes to mental health and other social ills that we may learn about as we adopt more and more AI, I can't help but think this is sort of along the laws of unintended consequences, right? You said at the beginning, AI is everything and nothing all at the same time, but it is so almost ubiquitous now in our lives. I'll bet you many of us use it every day without even thinking about it. And we're yet to realize what the long-term consequences of some of this may be.
Yeah, and it's really challenging. I mean, I think we can think about social media, right? Social media emerged. We have our really Facebooks and whatever. And at the time, people were like, this is probably going to affect our mental health, but we didn't have good evidence for that. And it's not until, 10, 15 years later that we can actually see the consequences of social media on our lives. And we're at that stage right now with these AI models where there's early evidence that there's, the cognitive offloading to AI is making us think less, think less critically, which is affecting students, but affecting all of us, affecting mental health. We have people kind of developing really unhealthy relationships with chatbots and so on. But the problem is right now, a lot of this is kind of anecdotal. We don't really have definitive evidence. So it's a risk. There's risks here to cognition and mental health. But yeah, we might not know for many years what the consequences are truly.
On the point about students, Hadrian, I've been thinking about this a fair bit as well. Younger people generally, and we know how difficult the job market is for them today, understanding that some of those jobs that perhaps you and I had one day no longer exist because they've been replaced by artificial intelligence. And that, to me, was another omission from this strategy announced by Prime Minister Carney. And that is, we're talking about sovereign AI, basically making Canada a leader in artificial intelligence development, et cetera, but no guardrails around it or any guidelines as to how much it will be used and how many more jobs might be eliminated.
Yeah, they and this is kind of classic government framing. They talk about the opportunities, right? If we get a widespread AI adoption, the government promises like 250,000 new jobs. I don't know where that number came from, but it sounds pretty good. That's a lot of new jobs. The problem is, even if that's true, it doesn't account for jobs that are lost. If we create 250,000 jobs but lose 500,000 jobs, that's not a net positive, right? And the jobs that are most at risk are absolutely those entry-level jobs. So this is the jobs that, graduates, young people are looking for, those entry-level jobs in software development, in like as legal aids, in research, all sorts of jobs that used to be the first rung of the ladder are at greatest risk right now. And that's going to have long-term consequences for those young people, but also for our whole workforce, for our whole economy.
Going back to your earlier point about these AI developers sort of asking for permission later, I feel as though AI is ahead of any legislation, and Canada feels as though, this is my perception, that we as a nation have to play a little bit of catch up, hence the announcement now and this strategy moving forward. But I wonder how you would like to see Canada move forward on this front, because I get the sense that we feel like we're already behind, so we have to move quickly. But what would you like to see us do as we move forward with an AI strategy in this country?
Well, you're completely right. And it's not just about Canada. This idea of an AI race is everywhere. And it's often framed as like the U.S. is in a race against China, and whoever wins the AI race, I guess, wins the future. To me, it's actually not clear what it means to win the AI race, but we get that narrative in Canada, too, that there's an urgency, that this new strategy uses the term urgency. We have to adopt, we have to develop AI, or else. It's kind of ambiguous what happens or else. And I'm skeptical of that. I think one thing that most of us can agree on, because Canadians are broadly skeptical. We see that in poll after poll. Canadians are broadly skeptical of AI. But even if you're on that, some people are like categorically against, we want no AI at all. Other people just want to have maybe more democratic control over AI. But I think what we can all agree on is that we should slow down, that actually there is no race here. And rushing is more likely to do harm than good here. We need to take our time and decide collectively as a society how we want to see AI in our lives, in our economy, and then move forward thoughtfully. But we don't need to rush.
Hadrian, I really appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hadrian Mertens-Kirkwood is a senior researcher with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, identifies a number of gaps that he sees in Canada's AI strategy, not the least of which there's no mention of copyright. Then you've got the idea of all of the various impacts that we are yet to realize, but I think we have a pretty clear idea of what those impacts will look like to one's mental health, etc. The laws of unintended consequences, right? And we can see that through social media and its proliferation in our lives and the impacts that it has had. One of the things that I mentioned seems glaring to me by way of omission in the early days of this strategy is any sort of guardrails around how much we will allow AI to do for us as communities, as a society. It seems like there is a race to get there first, to get there fastest, to have the most of it, I suppose. And as Hadrian points out at the end of that conversation, he doesn't feel as though it needs to be a race. I find this a fascinating, really point in history, whereby we will look back to the, I guess, invention and or adoption, widespread adoption of AI as a turning point in our history as a species, quite frankly. How much more are we willing to allow the machines to do? How many more of these applications will replace the things that we once did ourselves? I think there are myriad benefits to artificial intelligence. I think there are also myriad drawbacks to artificial intelligence. But I'm the guy that looks forward to a day where he doesn't have a cell phone in his pocket anymore. I would like to disconnect more than I connect. What I'm curious from your standpoint this morning is, how has AI impacted your life, work or personal? How much do you use it, if at all? I would sit here and tell you as truthfully as I can that I do not use AI, but I'll bet you there are ways that I'm using it and I don't even know. I did go to the self-checkout yesterday. Does that count? When I popped into the grocery store for a moment, I don't know. But when it comes to, the chat GPT programs, etc., I don't want to use those. I was educated in the arts. I wrote my own essays before AI was even a thing. I'm in the business now where writing is still a key part of what I do, and I do all of it myself. I don't want to rely on some sort of bot to do that work for me. I like to put my own brain to use on that, and I would rather not offload that to something or someone else. And by someone, I mean whomever it was that programmed the AI in the first place. How are you feeling about our AI strategy? And more to the point, how has AI impacted your life, be it work or personal? Are you using it, and does it work well for you? Would love to get into sort of how we are learning to live with AI here in the region. We'll take your calls right after this. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
These models had no permission to train on. And they know, these companies know that, but they took a sort of better to beg forgiveness than ask permission sort of approach. Went ahead and built these models without notifying creators, without compensating creators. And a lot of artists, writers, and so on, they're upset about that because their work was taken to train these models, and now it's threatening their jobs.
That is Hadrian Mertens Kirkwood, a senior researcher with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, joining us this morning to talk about Canada's AI strategy. And one of the things that he believes is missing, copyright. It seems as though these applications were created with the idea that, well, we'll just ask for forgiveness and or permission later. Copyright, absolutely something missing. One of the things that jumped out to me when Prime Minister Carney was at a media conference announcing Canada's AI strategy is the lack of any sort of guardrail. Yes, Canada wants to be at the forefront of AI adoption. He wants sovereign AI. So let's keep this intellectual property in Canada. Ideas I think we can get behind. But what about anything to maybe allay some of the concerns of young people particularly, and probably their parents, that AI will only be used for X number of applications and or jobs, so that some of these opportunities for younger people continue to exist. We don't seem to have put any sort of language around how or how much we ultimately employ AI. We just want to make sure that we are leading the race here and protecting our own intellectual property in Canada. And something else that Hadrian Mertens Kirkwood said in our conversation is that maybe it shouldn't be a race at all. How has AI impacted your life, be it professional or personal? How much are you using it, if at all? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Go to the phones. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I have a number, but it's so high I don't know what it is. That being said, I'm a little bit afraid of AI and what it's going to do to the intellect of our young people. I'm thinking that I'll put it this way: my kids use it religiously. I have one daughter who is raising 3 kids, and they ask AI various questions about raising their kids. And they will ask a question, or my daughter will ask a question, and then her husband will ask the same question and get 2 different answers. And then they whittle down the question so that they get what they perceive to be as the correct question. So that's the part that scares me.
Absolutely. I'm just listening, and I'm kind of nodding along because I totally understand. I get it.
So, I mean, in the future, given from everything you hear about AI, it's literally, learning itself and exponentially getting smarter. But it's also very scary when you get 2 different answers to the same question, and they're depending doing something with their kids on that answer, and that's scary. What
I find even more curious, Mike, is how 2 people, presumably in the same household, can ask the question and get a different answer. Why would the application give a different answer to dad than it gives to mom?
Well, I have another example. My wife and I both asked our AI, because it's built into our house, what time sunset is. And we got 2 different answers, and they were 5 hours apart. So you just average the 2 and go, okay, I guess it's 7.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my thought.
All right, Mike. Yeah, appreciate you calling today. And listen, I get it, and that speaks to the most recent survey that our guest from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives alluded to. Most Canadians still feel uneasy about the intrusion, let's say, of AI in our daily lives. And I get it. And I hear where Mike is coming from when he asks the question, what is this doing to our learning and or development? I've joked with you about this for quite some time, and it all started years ago. And it was a TV commercial that showed a person in a vehicle that had whatever technology, lane assist is it called, whatever it was, but driving a vehicle. So it's a 6-lane highway, 3 in each direction, and the person in the commercial was driving in the middle lane in between 2 large transport trucks. Don't even get me started why one of those transport trucks was in the left lane. We're just going to go with it here. The idea was this vehicle helped you stay safe in your lane, even when navigating on a highway between 2 tractor trailers. And my buddy said, if you can't keep yourself in your lane and safe between 2 tractor trailers when they're in their lane and you're in yours, you should not have a driver's license, period, right? If you need the car's help to navigate that situation on a highway, then you've got bigger problems and you should not be driving on the roads. And that's always stuck with me. And the joke that I've made over time is the number of different things that not just our vehicles, but so many things are doing for us. But if we stick with in-vehicle technology, right? You've got parallel parking assist, you've got this lane assist, you've got all these different things. And if we are not being called upon to use that part of our brain, doesn't that part of our brain just deteriorate? I don't know. So if we're relying on a machine learning to give us the answer to various questions, what do we become? People that just randomly or automatically type things into a chatbot to get the answers returned? I know I'm getting pretty dystopian here. And I will again confess to not knowing much at all about what this is all about. I can see the tremendous applications in medical and other fields, et cetera. But I think there is a little bit too much, a little bit too soon. And we will continue to monitor how Canada's AI strategy works for us here in this country. An update from the 570 News Center. And then how about the threat of even more tariffs from the United States? What's that doing to our local economy? We'll check into that next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, another week and another twist in the ongoing saga of trade between Canada and the United States and the world, really. Protectionism is the order of the day under U.S. President Donald Trump. The latest threat is a new 10% levy on Canada because allegedly we are not doing a good enough job of keeping out of our markets goods made by forced labor. Ian McLean is the president and CEO at the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce. He also, along with Craig DeRocher from the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, hosts Business to Business on this radio station Sundays from noon until 1. Ian, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. I was hoping that this interview would be about either the Rangers, go Rangers, or Farwell for hire, but you've picked my least favorite topic right now, which is Donald Trump and tariffs and the economy. But I'm always happy to be on with you and happy to chat about anything that helps you and your show.
I appreciate that, my friend. And there are great stories around the fundraiser that's off to a great start. And of course, our Memorial Cup champions. But lots of folks are asking questions about the impact, Ian, of this latest threat on our local economy, or maybe even the uncertainty of renegotiating the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement. What is the impact here in the region?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, this latest one is it's just a load of BS, right? Like the president is throwing up as much spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, and he's trying to impose or have maximum leverage as we get closer to July 1st and the renewal date. And for everyone, I mean, I think it does bear saying, July 1st, nothing happens. All that happens is instead of being renewed for 16 years, the Kuzma agreement, it comes in for annual reviews over each year over the next 10 years. That's bad in and of itself, even though the agreement's in place, in that the uncertainty that you talked about, because that's the worst part about this, Mike, is if the tariffs create uncertainty because, depending on what your business is, where you're getting your input materials, where your market is, so it could impact your supply chains. It could impact your input costs. If your company is involved and needs steel or aluminum, those can affect your. And then we get to the other parts, which are less tariff related, but really have an impact on business now, which is gas prices because of the foreign wars that that the U.S. is in. Transportation costs go up, higher costs for consumers. So none of this is good. And what I would say is I think what you've really identified is the uncertainty, and the biggest issue is investment is frozen. We've seen this with trying to create new jobs and have either foreign direct investment investing here in Waterloo region or business expansions. A lot of people are just putting everything on hold. And that's the kiss of death or that's maybe overstatement, but uncertainty creates capital sits on the sideline when there's uncertainty. And that's a big problem for not only Waterloo region, but right across Ontario and throughout Canada.
You mentioned at the outset this latest threat is a bunch of hooey. Is that to say then, Ian, that the goods that the U.S. and President Trump alleges are being made with forced labor, is our record as a country good on that front?
I mean, my understanding. I'm not an expert in it, but you have a track record of being conscious of these. We have much higher standards than the U.S. does. So, I don't think you have to draw a straight line very far from Donald Trump throwing tariffs on. First, it was fentanyl. We all knew that fentanyl was not an issue coming from Canada into the U.S., but that's how we started this game. Let's go back to the beginning and say national security tariffs, the 232 tariffs, and fentanyl were the reasons that he could slap tariffs on us with a compliant, some would say ineffectual Congress supporting him. He's created his own problems in the American economy, and as we all know, we are not immune when he does these things. It affects our economy here in Canada, but it's affected everyone around the world. And so, what is happening, and I, we could spend the whole show on this, but he is slowly losing control of Congress. He will, in the midterms, lose the House, maybe the Senate, and that means he becomes more of a lame duck. So he's using every, whether it's real or not, executive power he has, and coming up with these. What I would say is it's a lot like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks to try and have that maximum leverage as we go into the negotiations. And that's not a good place for Canada to be, but I have to tell you, it's not a surprise. The tactic, the specifics, it's always kind of like, where did he come up with that one from? Because it's not been its trade issue or an irritant that anyone has really put on the radar screen. So this is just one more tactic he uses to try and bully, intimidate, and add leverage to the U.S. position. And I would just remind, I think I've said this before in the air, as much as business wants a deal, needs a deal for certainty so we can get back to, having, an economy that works for everyone here and around the world, we can't accept a bad deal. Business wants a deal, but no deal is better than a bad deal. And the real question that I think a lot of people are asking is, seems like the U.S. wants to get to the table now because they've got their own political issues that the president does. But can we even trust an agreement that the prime minister and his team may come to with Trump and his team? Because he's not even living up to the Kuzma agreement that we have in place right now. And that, to me, is the most troubling part of this is, okay, go ahead and negotiate, but can we trust the guy to actually live up to his end of the bargain?
Yeah, it's a great point. And you say no deal is better than a bad deal. What does a good deal look like, Ian?
Well, I mean, I'm not prepared to accept. Some people say, "Oh, we'll have to get used to. We'll have to pay tariffs." I'm saying we've negotiated and have the most successful trade relationship up until Donald Trump arrived. Not saying it's perfect, but the most successful trade relationship in the history of the world is the one that we have. And so I would be not leaving much on the table or putting much on the table without there being a benefit to Canada. I mean, this relationship does work, and I'm not entirely sure how. And you're starting to see this, I guess, is where I would say it. You're starting to see Congress people and senators whose own states and districts are being harmed significantly by the tariffs and by what it means. And so, what does a good deal look like? I mean, I have to put faith in Mark Carney and the Prime Minister. We did this last time with Justin Trudeau, and while I may have a great deal to say about Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, they signed a pretty good arrangement that put us in good stead the last time around, and we have to all be crossing our fingers, toes, and saying our prayers that the Prime Minister and his team can negotiate a good deal. And beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. When they negotiate and come to it, I'm sure there will be things that people will pick at, but it needs to be more towards what we already have, which is a integrated North American economy that benefits all three countries.
Always great to get your perspective, Ian. And before I let you go, completely unrelated, but you got me thinking about it when you mentioned our Memorial Cup champion Kitchener Rangers. We flew into and out of the region of Waterloo International Airport to get back and forth to Kelowna. And I saw you at a meeting of regional council last week, extolling the virtues of and reminding council of the importance of that international airport to our local business community. Why is it so important?
It's a connection to the world. Look, as much as we're growing, we're 700,000, and whether we're 1 million people in 20 years or 25 or 30 years, it's coming, right? We are going to be a community of around 1 million people. We need to invest in the infrastructure that we need so that we can be successful. We can have the jobs, the healthcare, the social services we need. And you know what is table stakes now? Things like a convention center of significant size so we can draw people into the community, but also an airport. We need to be connected around the world. And frankly, one of the opportunities, because we're investing now and why it's forward-looking, is that Toronto Pearson Airport will eventually run out of times and slots for flights, especially international flights. There are going to be regional airports that are going to have to support like secondary airports and people may fly in and out of different places. It may involve Waterloo Region Airport. So investing in the infrastructure now sets us up for the future where we have more service to more places across Canada and short haul flights into the U.S. And frankly, that gets us to the world. If you can get to Chicago or New York or from here, from Montreal or Halifax, you can get around the world. And that's the connection here. Is we are in a global marketplace now. Airport infrastructure is not a nice to have. It's a have to have if you're going to compete globally around the world.
Ian, always appreciate your perspective on the show. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
Ian McLean is the president and CEO at the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce. He, along with his colleague Greg DeRocher, who leads the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, are on this radio station weekly, Sundays from noon until 1 with Business to Business. It is an excellent program. If you haven't listened before, I encourage you to check it out. They are keeping their fingers on the pulse of all things business on the show. And we primarily speak to Ian today insofar as the impact of this uncertainty. And that's really what it comes down to, right? I really like the spaghetti against the wall analogy that Ian makes when it comes to U.S. President Donald Trump and the application of, or the threat to apply, tariffs on various countries, including Canada, the most recent being a 10% tariff because allegedly we are importing too many goods that are made with forced labor. Ian, first off, says this latest salvo is a bunch of BS, but further, and I loved the reminder, let's go back to the beginning of all of this and what it was allegedly all about, right? Safer borders, the trafficking and movement of fentanyl, et cetera, which was deemed bogus and found to be bogus early on. And now here we are as the U.S. president approaches the midterms, may lose control of both the House and the Senate, and is just on a whim, seemingly, firing off these ideas and or these threats. I guess in light of the most recent events, it's great that President Trump can fire off these threats when he's awake. Who falls asleep at a playoff game for any sport? I mean, I might stay awake for a soccer playoff game, for crying out loud, but the president fell asleep at Madison Square Garden last night as the New York Knicks lost their NBA Finals game. I don't know how you fall asleep at a playoff game in a stadium that is that full, and I couldn't help but chuckle when the boos were audible during the national anthem, but President Trump later said, oh no, they're mostly cheers. It was a very nice reception for me at Madison Square Garden. Nonetheless, Ian McLean, President, CEO of the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce, joins us on the show to talk about the uncertainty for our local business community around the constant threats and the evolving threats of the application of tariffs from the United States. We are working on getting that new Canada-US-Mexico agreement worked out. Prime Minister Carney says this latest threat from the United States, not a surprise, and we will continue working on that negotiation of a new trade pact. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Oh, just look at that jackpot. It is my new daily obsession. I keep my eyes on the Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot, which is now greater than $70,000. The take-home prize greater than $35,000. And you know what that means. I mean, yeah, it means Kyle gets out of the penalty box. Okay. He broke the rules on the show while I was away. He did so with intent. We put him in the penalty box until the jackpot in the Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle reached $70,000, which it now has. I was also unable to enjoy one of my favorite treats, the butter tart, until the jackpot got to $70,000. But here we are. And I promise you, every day when we do this story, it's not just going to be about Farwell for Hire. I promise.
Not everyone's a jackwagon. Not every heart is cold. Not every promise made to you is gonna turn to gold and fold. Some people mean it when they say they care. Some folks will show up, actually be there. So don't close the door on every soul you meet. Not everyone's a jackwagon on this street.
It is hard to not make the connection, though, today to the Farwell for Hire fundraiser and what Phil and the team at On-Site Computer Services in Kitchener did this morning, realizing that we were so close to that $70,000 jackpot, $35,000 take-home, that they thought they would allow me the chance today to eat butter tarts. Bought $800 worth of 50-50 raffle tickets to put us over that $70,000 mark in the jackpot. Thank you to Phil and the team at On-Site Computer Services for doing that. That puts more money in there for you to win, too. You can go to cf5050.ca, get your tickets in that raffle. And remember, we are also raising important money for cystic fibrosis research. And if you buy before Friday, you will also be eligible for our next early bird prize, $1,500 from the Better Business Bureau. So On-Site Computer Services comes through out of nowhere today to allow me to eat a butter tart. And they even brought butter tarts into the station, or sent butter tarts into the station. Unreal. Better Business Bureau is there with our early bird prize for this week, $1,500 cash. And I'm sure you know the name David Schooley and the negotiators team with RE/MAX Twin City. Well, every year the negotiators donate $1,000 for every Farwell for hire house they sell to our fundraising campaign. And then last week on the show, I got this call from David, who, as you know, along with leading that negotiators team with RE/MAX Twin City, David is part of the ownership group with Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment, the KW Titans, and our Kitchener Panthers.
I would like you to look at the calendar in the next day or so, and let's pick a Kitchener Panthers Farwell for hire game. We're going to make it better. Anybody that walks up and buys a ticket, we're going to donate $5 to the Farwell for hire.
Holy cow.
Whatever day that is. So I'm going to leave that to you and Jen to figure out. We play typically on Thursday nights and Sunday afternoons. So if you can fit it into the schedule in the next few weeks or whenever you'd like, we will do that. We'd love to donate some more money to the Farwell for hire.
Well, David Schooley and the negotiators and Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment, we're not turning down an opportunity like that, are we? So on Sunday, June the 21st, yes, Father's Day, why not take Dad to the good old baseball game? Let's get together at Jack Couch Park in Kitchener on the 21st. So a week from this coming Sunday, and $5 from every ticket sold is going to be donated to Farwell for hire. David also tells me the proceeds of the 50-50 at the game on Sunday the 21st will also be donated to Farwell for hire. So let's get together at the ballpark. We'll enjoy a beautiful Sunday afternoon of ball, and $5 from every ticket sold will be donated to Farwell for hire. Let's take Dad to the ball game for Father's Day on Sunday the 21st. And thank you to David Schooley and Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment for getting behind our campaign in a big way and helping us raise even more money for cystic fibrosis research. Yes, that would absolutely qualify David and the Hirani family from Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment as the kind of people who are not jackwagons. We've got an update on the way from the 570 News Center in the next 30 minutes. Ice cream for breakfast, you say? Yes, I answer. And two women who have made it their mission to ensure that everyone in this region has access to necessities. Those stories coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, I was just chatting off air with our next guests who joined me in studio, and I was telling them how much I love the campaign that they do every year because it just screams grassroots, and they have made it very easy to support their efforts. And we're going to get into how successful, how incredibly successful those efforts were again this year. As we welcome into the studio Michaela Correa, who's the founder of Access to Necessities, period. Michaela, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Great to have you back. Marissa Warner with us as well, a partner in this annual campaign. Good morning, Marissa.
Hello, Mike.
So, Michaela, let me start with you. Where did this idea of a campaign called Access to Necessities, period, come from?
It was a brain baby, as I like to refer to it, one of my good brain babies, because they're not all winners. Basically, at the time in which I started my real estate career, so several years ago, my brokerage is very involved in the community, which is one of the things I love about it. But I thought, okay, I have a business now, meaning I have a platform, as we all do with business. what can I do in the community that's kind of like my contribution directly? And I wanted to find a niche area that maybe wasn't getting as much attention as it might have needed. And I thought menstrual products, because there's a lot of discomfort around that topic, or people just feel like maybe they can't speak about it as publicly as they can. So I wanted to create something that contributed directly to that space. And I thought, let's do a product donation campaign. And I'm going to kind of put it out there, collect products, find a few really great community resources that support vulnerable populations who might need these items, and I'm going to donate to them. And it started as simple as that, and it's grown, several years later to this amazing campaign where we have donated tens of thousands of products to different groups in our community.
Marissa, how did you, if I carry on the brain baby analogy, adopt this brain baby? How did you get involved?
I became involved in this relationship. So Michaela and I have been friends for a very long time. I don't know how long, but
we don't need to say.
We don't need to say. Anyway, and I saw her first introduction of this campaign and efforts from her. And at the time, I just said, like, hey, do you need help, like, counting or organizing? Or, like, what do you need help with? Mm-hmm. That was year one. And so we just had, like, a little party and...
Yeah, tampons everywhere. On my living room floor, some coffee and Bailey's.
Yeah, very good. And it kind of evolved from there. So after the first year, we just talked about having a more formal role in the campaign, to help promote it, organize it, because there is a lot that goes into this every single year and throughout the years as well. So that's how I kind of was adopted into.
I let her in.
Yeah.
I let her in.
So, Michaela, the first time you're trying this, I always find this fascinating. Like, great. So you've established a business in real estate, and you want to do something to give back, and you choose helping vulnerable populations so that they also have access to these necessities, as you call the campaign, right?
Yeah.
So when you first started out, how did you spread the word and begin collecting these donations of tampons, other menstrual products?
It was very simple and very close to home. I reached out to family and friends directly. I reached out kind of to like my circle, my sphere. So business contacts, my clients, my real estate clients, colleagues. And I basically just created an email template and, wrote out what I was doing, why I was doing it, and what kind of contribution I felt it would have directly to our community. And I just got a huge response. And the great thing was I sent it out to my people, and my people sent it out to their people, and they sent it out to so it just kind of rippled. And you just realize how many people are excited to help, willing to help. If they're kind of just given a little platform or a little avenue, like the kindness and the want to contribute is there. It's innate in people. Sometimes they just need the right outlet to participate in. And that's how it started. And I drove to pretty much people's houses or places of business, and I loaded up my trunk and I brought it home and stored it in my basement. And then we would count, organize, and distribute. And we have formalized it a little bit since then. We've added in community partners, which are businesses that house a bin for us every month, and just continuing to spread the word more formally. And it's just grown so beautifully since that first year.
And social media is so beautiful.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like
powerful.
Yeah, very, very powerful. And the reach that you can have in such both targeted and untargeted ways. It's not that we pay to target, but when you start tagging certain community partners and just the city and the region, and you bring those people in locally to you. And I think I've been amazed more than anything how many people it has reached that I didn't know before this. And they have said to me, like, oh, we've been following you girls for a long time and you've done such a great job. So I just think there is such a beautiful power of social media. There's good and bad with everything, but this has been such a positive from it.
And we absolutely can see that. And I love that the social media is a positive in this regard. And you've made it easy, Michaela, right on folks. Get the donations to a drop-off location, or you're
Or I'll pick
collecting
them up.
exactly right, and then it's pretty easy to get behind. How do you manage distribution once you've collected everything, getting it to the agencies that can use it?
Well, we definitely need to shout out Trish, who is our campaign volunteer. She's kind of our third little piece of the puzzle. Trish has kind of contributed to allocating all of the donations once we've collected, counted, and organized. So I kind of have a little spreadsheet of all of the groups, and it's different each year because some of them only have so much storage space. So I might have given a group 3 bags full of products one year, and they can only take 1 bag the following year. So we kind of touch base with them, see what their needs are, and then I schedule dates and times for Trish to go drop off. We usually get to chat with them a little bit, see their space, interact, and then she leaves them there, and they kind of take it from there in terms of distributing. So Trish is a huge part of distribution now. Marissa and I still take part in it, but she kind of just, again, is a friend and came around and said, how can I help? And we said, you can do this if you want to. And she said, I would love to. And she just really wanted to contribute to her community and felt this was a good way to do so.
Great network, great people getting behind all of this. How many years is it now?
6, 7?
We did our first.
2020 was the first year I did the campaign. Yeah.
Because I remember sorting with masks on.
Yes. And I remember because that's when I was pregnant with my first son. That's when I found out I was pregnant with my first son. So this was our 7th year doing the campaign.
Yes. And we are so proud to say that this was our record-breaking year.
Yeah.
We collected more than we ever have.
Over 22,000 products this year.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible.
When you say that number.
Right. And those products really range from pads and tampons and menstrual cups and period underwear as well. And because every single one of the associations that we support, they have different needs.
Yeah.
And there's some that request more of one item than the other. Demographic has a lot to do with it as well. And we really try to cater to that so that it has the biggest impact. And it is beautiful. And one of the other things I was going to add, I think numbers are such a powerful thing. And not only was this our record-breaking year number-wise, but I think when people start to realize how in need people are. So we've started to vocalize some of the stats. So in Canada, 1 in 4 women need to decide between food and eating in a day and buying menstrual products. And when you say 1 in 4, a lot of these women have families. So it's not just them eating, it's their family as well. So it's a very sobering reality. And I think numbers, I rely on numbers myself just to really drive a point home. And that impacted me probably the most.
And it's not a one-time thing. This is a monthly reoccurrence for anyone who's not familiar. It's a constant front of mind decision that they are forced to make, unfortunately. So
22,000 products collected this year. Just this year.
I kind of had like a quiet little goal to myself that maybe 10 years, 100,000. I think we can hit that next year already.
Oh, for sure.
Because of where we're at, which is just, it's not about that, but
It's fun.
it's fun. And I just love to see, again, the number. You can just kind of visualize that in terms of effect within the community.
Right.
And I think one of another key thing that we have changed over the years, we've, like anything, you grow, evolve, make tweaks. 2 years ago, we introduced a GoFundMe because there are a lot of people that are they're local but not super local, and they want to have an impact and contribute to the campaign. So we set up a GoFundMe so that they can provide a monetary donation. And that has been, I think, a significant game changer for us.
It's fueled it forward for
totally.
sure.
So, and that money, all of it, goes directly to purchasing more products. And typically, after we have our donation campaign in February, so every February is our donation campaign, and we do our count. We look at our count. We look at what we've collected. and we use the money to fill the gaps of the most needed products so that we have a really vast range of products to provide those organizations that have specific requests so that we can service that.
Yeah.
So you are definitely out there more aggressively, if you will, in February for the collection and talking about the campaign. But I know that this really does continue on an ongoing basis.
It does.
Michaela, how can folks get involved, learn more?
Well, look out for us for sure in February. So February 2027 will be our next campaign. That's really the month we run it. But like you said, it spills out into the entire year. So you can reach out to either of us anytime. We're happy to take donations. On Instagram, I'm at _Michaela Correa, and Marissa is at The Home Narrative. That's a really good place to connect initially. I think it's a comfortable space for strangers to just be like, hey, I see what you're doing. How can I help? You can also visit our respective websites if you want to know what your options are for contributing, or if you just want to know a little bit more about what we're doing and the impact that it has.
I'm on the site right now, thehomenarrative.com. It's really easy, and you can find all the information there. And I trust that the two of you will be back early 2027.
If you'll have us.
Absolutely.
We'll bring you a treat maybe next time.
It's not required. I mean, I won't say no, but it's not required. And we'll put out that goal of getting to 100,000 products in next year's campaign.
Let's do it.
We'll get there.
I love what you're doing. I absolutely love it. Congratulations on a record year.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Michaela Correa and Marissa Warner. Access to necessities, period. Check out thehomenarrative.com. You'll find more information about the excellent work that these women are doing in our community. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Hey, guess what you can do this weekend? I mean, I suppose if you're my age, you can do it anytime you want. But I'm not sure it's necessarily doctor recommended. The thing that I'm talking about is eating ice cream for breakfast, but it is absolutely encouraged this weekend because it is the continuation of a long-running fundraiser in our community. And it's got a very good story behind it, and it's going to a very worthy cause. And here to tell us about the story, the why, is the founder herself of Ice Cream for Breakfast, my good friend, Maddie Lattizi. Good morning, Maddie.
Good morning. How are you doing, Mike?
Well, I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you? Because we're getting close. Saturday, the 13th, is Ice Cream for Breakfast Day.
It is. I'm very excited. I'm super excited. We're starting to pick up all the ice cream now, and it's becoming real. I'm very excited.
I'm glad to hear that. Tell us a little more first, Maddie, about you yourself.
Yeah, well, of course. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Madison. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Kitchener. So this will be my 9th annual fundraiser for Make-A-Wish. And for those of you who aren't aware of who Make-A-Wish is it's a company that grants wishes for children with critical illnesses. And in 2015, I actually had my wish granted by Make-A-Wish. And I got to go to my favorite theme park in Florida to meet Anna and Elsa. And then after my 7th out of 8 spinal surgeries, I have scoliosis and muscular dystrophy. While I was recovering, I wanted to give back to Make-A-Wish so I could help other children feel the joy I felt. So I took my favorite part of my wish trip and made it ice cream for breakfast. And, I made it my fundraiser.
Okay, so a couple of things caught my attention there. First of all, you said you're 18, and this is going to be your 9th fundraiser. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not the best in math, but you started this when you were 9, 10 years old?
Yeah, I was 8 years old.
Incredible. And then it was after your 7th of 8 spinal surgeries.
Yes.
8 spinal surgeries for a young woman, Madison, who's now just 18 years old. What was that going through that experience like for you?
I was very young. My last spinal surgery was when I was 14. But, I had so much support and, all of it helped me. And Make-A-Wish granting my wish when I was younger really helped boost my joy and my happiness. And, I kept looking back on it. And obviously I was looking back on it during my 7th surgery. And I guess, that caused me to give back.
And part of that time in hospital recovering was when you were able to eat ice cream for breakfast. Is that right?
Yeah, so much ice cream. So much ice cream.
There's no such thing as too much ice cream, though, Maddie. Take it from an expert.
Agree.
Yeah, good. Okay, so then you start the Ice Cream for Breakfast fundraiser. And over the past 9 years, in support of Make-A-Wish, how much money have you been able to raise?
In the past 9 years, we've been able to raise $85,000. And it honestly wouldn't be able to happen without the support from our community, my family, the local ice cream shops that donate all the ice cream, which is absolutely amazing.
$85,000 over 9 years. That is a lot of ice cream, Maddie.
Oh, it is. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. It's awesome.
I mentioned at the outset that this weekend provides our opportunity to eat ice cream for breakfast. We can all do it. It's guilt-free because we're helping your fundraiser.
We're helping a great cause.
That's right. We are. Make-A-Wish is the cause. Specifically, Saturday. What do we need to know, Maddie?
We need to know it's at the Stanley Park Community Center, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and I also have some exciting news. The first 86 people that come will each receive one free large Dairy Queen Blizzard coupon.
What? Come on, that's awesome.
I know. It's awesome. And, I've got some flavors so far that I know of. So for this year, we have cookie dough, gold medal ribbon, 9 bar, and butterscotch ripple. And then we also have so many more that are a surprise to me, too.
Well, you had me at gold medal ribbon. That's one of my favorites.
Perfect.
Stanley Park Community Center. That's the corner of Ottawa and Franklin. Saturday starts at 9. The first 86 people get a coupon for a free Dairy Queen.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is fantastic. Okay, Maddie, so when we get our ice cream, I mean, you usually have like sauces and sprinkles and what?
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to have those options available too?
Yeah, so I am still deciding on our toppings.
Okay.
But right now we have caramel sauce, strawberry sauce, chocolate sauce, all the sauces you can imagine of. And then obviously the ice cream and the toppings will be there as well.
And do we just donate? Is there a set amount? Any amount. Whatever we feel to donate.
Everything's welcome.
Perfect. So we make the decision on how much we're donating, but we're getting ice cream for breakfast this Saturday.
Ice cream either way.
Ice cream either way, starting at 9 at the Stanley Park Community Center.
Yes.
Maddie, thank you so much for everything that you do, and I will see you Saturday morning for ice cream for breakfast.
Thank you for your support, and thank you for having me.
You bet. Take care. We'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That is my good friend Maddie Latizzi. For 9 years now, she has been hosting an ice cream for breakfast fundraiser in support of Make-A-Wish. She has raised $85,000 so far, so I know we're going to put her over $100,000 and then some this year. Show up Saturday morning, starting at 9 at the Stanley Park Community Center. That's the corner of Ottawa and Franklin in Kitchener. We will all enjoy some ice cream for breakfast. The first 86 of us there will get that DQ coupon, and we're going to help Maddie raise more money for Make-A-Wish. An update from the 570 News Center is coming up, and then let's go back in time to the Chimers. I mean, this very radio station used to be 570 Chime. Even before that, the Chimers were a thing. We were still 1,400 and something on the dial. Anyway, that's all coming up. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. A trip down memory lane is next. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, we have arrived into the week that will end the work week Friday with a little bit of a trip down memory lane to the old Chimers fast pitch team. And yes, Chimers as in Chime Radio, 570 Chime, although I think when the Chimers got going, Chime was still 1490. Yeah, on the AM dial. That voice you hear is that of John Thompson, one of the founders of Let's Talk Sports Waterloo Region and the key driving force behind the organization of this reunion trip down memory lane on Friday. Good morning, John.
Hi, thanks. And I've got lots of help there with some alumni, so it's not just me, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we're looking forward to our Fastball Memories get-together gathering on Friday, June 12th. It's going to be during the afternoon. We're going to be at one of the more popular gathering spots from the old days in Waterloo, and that's the KW Naval Association, or the KW Navy Club, as people call it, at 315 Weber Street North. And we're going to gather, and we've got a couple of modest program items that we'll talk about. And anybody who remembers the good fast, you said fast pitch. That's in those days it was called fastball. It was just simply fastball. Fast pitch became, slow pitch became more common. Then to differentiate, they called this fast pitch. But in the old days, and I think Dean will back this up, it was,
yes.
Are you a fastball player or baseball player or whatever the case may be? But we're hoping to get, 50, 60, 70 people out on Friday afternoon at the Navy Club. And we're going to pay tribute to one of the founders of the Chimers Fastball, and that's Glenn Mazer. Glenn passed away earlier this year, unfortunately, but he was among a group of people in the, I think, late 60s when the Intercity Fastball League had already been formed, about 5 years into the making. And there was a Waterloo senior team that played in the Inter-County League, not the Intercity League, and then they made a transition because I think they saw that the Intercity Fastball League was going to be very competitive, not much travel because there were so many good teams around the area here, and we're going to celebrate that, tell some stories. Some of them will be true, and we'll have to differentiate between the truth and that. But we'll come back a little later and talk about our panel that we've got lined up at that time.
Sure. So Friday at the Navy Club on Weber Street North. And what time are we getting underway?
Doors open at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Cash bar, be some snacks that will be available for purchase there as well. And then at 2 o'clock, we've got a bit of a program. And including in that will be some remarks from the Mazer family. And we'll talk about that a little later as well because Glenn's kids, for lack of a better term, will be there, and even some grandkids.
I love it. Okay, so that's all happening on Friday. And another member of this Chimers alumni, Dean Musselman, joins us in studio this morning as well. Good morning.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great to have you on the show. And, the number of times that we've been able to kind of reminisce about fastball and its heyday around here, I've mentioned it on numerous occasions, Dean. I mean, look, we feel like, or a lot of times we're called a hockey town around here, obviously because of our Rangers. We've got a rich history in boxing, but fastball as well, another rich history of this sport. How did you get into it?
Well, ironically, I never played fastball because there was no minor fastball organization. So I played hardball up to about 14, 15. But when I was 10 or so, my older brother was playing on a Kitchener travel team, fastball team. So that's where I sort of got introduced to it. And I really liked it. It was so much different than baseball. It was obviously the pitcher was closer, the bases, everything seemed to happen faster. And that's when I got introduced. Now, and I started, when I got to high school, I was working at night, so I really couldn't join any leagues. So I got asked to, when I was 21, that's my first time playing fastball, I got asked to come out to the Kent Hotel, the old Kent Hotel team, and try out for them. So
was that your first trip to the Kent when you were 21?
Yes, dear, it was. So that's when I first started playing, and then I played there 1 year, and then that league folded, I believe. And I went to the Kitchener News and the KFL for a year. And then in 82, Glenn asked me if I'd be interested in trying out. And like that, facing those pitchers are quite a big step up from the KFL pitchers. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. So I didn't play a whole lot. I sort of subbed in, and we had injuries and vacation and stuff. So that year I played in 82, and then '83, I started playing more. There was quite a bit of turnover on the team in '83, so I got to play regular there. So, and I played for the Chimers until I think it was 90, and then 91 became the Waterloo Twins. And then 91, 92, and then 93, the body was starting to break down a bit, and so I wasn't playing much, so I talked to Larry Lynch, about helping him coach, because he was doing that all by himself, and it's quite a bit of work so I took care of the on-field stuff, so he had time to do his off-field stuff, and I did that for 93, 94, 95 was my last year, and then I tapped out at that point, so it was a good career, though.
It certainly is. And, I mean, anybody that can survive a few years working with Larry Lynch,
yes.
Hawk, I mean, you've got war stories from that, Dean.
Yes, that's more for a podcast, though, than a radio.
Okay, we will keep that in mind. Can you give us a sense? You talked about those various teams and leagues that you were associated with or played on, then managed. But what fastball meant in this community at the time?
Oh, well, fastball is more popular in the rural. Like they had, and the guys were playing a lot younger then too, probably 15, 16.
Sure.
But for me personally, it meant a lot, obviously, because I did it for 14 years, and I had a lot of friends I played hockey with, and also played fastball with and against, and I don't know. I thought it was very important for the community, going forward. So.
A couple of things back in those days, especially in the 70s and 80s. I was on the Chimers board for about 10 years, and I helped do some promotions and did the printed programs and that sort of thing. Dean, you probably remember some of the times, like one of the tournaments that we attended every year was the Waterloo Chimers tournament. How good was that tournament?
Oh, I love that tournament, especially as a kid. I got, 13, 14, I got the bike over to Waterloo, the old Centennial Park there on Westmount.
Yeah.
And I got to watch the Chimer games at night, and then the tournaments was awesome. You could bike over there. Games start at 9. There's 2 games going all day and sometimes half the night of extra innings and stuff. So as a fan, I loved it. As a player, obviously, it's always cool to play in front of your friends and family and stuff. But the away tournaments were pretty cool, too. We did a lot of traveling back in the day. And
how far afield would you go?
Well, back in when I first started playing, there was still lots of teams around. There was the Memorial League and the Intercity League and the OFL. There was so many teams. You could go an hour circumference, and wow. But as the years went on, obviously teams came less and less. You had to travel further away. The farthest, we've gone for the World Championships. We went to Victoria, BC. We went to Salt Lake City. Went to Kimberly, Wisconsin. PEI, Summerside PEI, and Sioux City, Iowa was my last in '95. So there was some pretty good traveling around. So
Iowa is a beautiful spot for baseball, and
yes.
And John, you mentioned being on that board for the Chimers. How was it that we were able to sustain this high-level fastball club in town for as long as we did?
Well, there was a group, I think it was around 67 or so, that formed the team that I think was a bit of an offshoot from the St. Clements team, too. Some of the players came in and played in Waterloo in the senior team, and they played in the Intercity Fastball League, which I had mentioned was started around 1960. So they already had a half dozen years track record as a very highly competitive. And the thing about that was that you had good fastball with some awesome pitchers, and all the games were within probably 30, 35, 45 minutes because you had Waterloo, you had 2 teams in Galt, you had Guelph, you had Stratford at one time, had 2 teams. And then Dean mentioned about the Rural League, and that was a really strong league. It was the North Waterloo Rural Softball League. And every little place, St. Clements, Breslau, Bloomingdale, they all had teams, and those were only like 3 or 4 miles apart. They had some. Did you remember the rules in that league at all, the North Waterloo League?
They had leadoffs,
Yeah.
So they had different rules from one league to the next.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They had their own. They had lead-offs. You could lead off from first or whatever base, but the pitcher could balk. So he could be in his wind-up and throw the ball in his glove and then try to pick the runners off. Yeah, it was different. First time I seen that, wow, that is...
Wasn't there one pitcher I heard, I've never seen this, but I heard that in his windup he could throw behind his back to first base to try to get a pickoff.
Yeah.
So there was leadoffs, which contributed to more stolen bases, a little more offensive-minded, I think.
Yes, but you had to be careful.
The idea must have been, though, because, Dean, you talked about it earlier. The pitcher is much closer, and these fellas, when they wind up, oh, boy, that's coming in fast.
Comes in pretty quick.
And it's right, and it's not far away.
Yeah.
Must have been a way to generate, because the scoring must have been lower, right?
Oh, it's...
Well,
very,
in
very
good
much.
fastball over the years, low-scoring games were the measure,
right?
Because of the dominance of the pitchers.
Absolutely.
I think the pitching distance used to be, let's say, maybe 49 feet, and then it was moved to, I think, ended up around 46 or 43 feet from the pitching slab.
46 when I played. Yes,
Yeah.
the bases were 60.
And baseball, of course, is 60 feet 6 inches, so
Right.
it's a third, 25% less. And so it's not so much the speed of the pitch, it's the reaction time, because the pitch is coming. And over the years, it used to be, 2 feet on the rubber and a lot of strict pitching rules. But once the Twins got in with the International Softball Congress, and that the rules were a little more lax, and 2 feet on the rubber became 1 foot on the rubber, became
It was like a
if you have some
triple
contact
jump.
with the So the point of release for a guy like Darren Zach was probably about 38 feet. There's an 8-foot circle. When the pitcher has the ball, there's no advancing of the bases within the 8-foot circle. But he would land on or outside the 8-foot circle. So take 46 minus 8. The pitch is being delivered at about 38 feet. And
I think that circle is more of a suggestion than a rule.
Dean Musselman, John Thompson in studio with us. Chimers alumni, as we remember the great history of fastball in this community. There's an event coming up on Friday John will tell us more about, as well as we continue our conversation this morning on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This Friday marks our opportunity to hear some stories and remember the old Chimers fastball team. It's happening at the Navy Club on Weber Street North in Waterloo. Doors open at 1. More on that in a moment as we're in conversation with John Thompson, Dean Musselman, Chimers alumni. We just got into this a bit during the commercial break, John, but when you think back on the heyday, right, and Dean was sharing some great stories about the heyday of the Chimers and of fastball. How do we compare today?
Well, it's two different eras for sure. It certainly in the Chimers' heyday in the 60s, 70s, and going into the 80s, most of the teams had local talent. You might have an import pitcher. An import would be, well, he lived 5 post offices away or something. Like maybe last year he played in London and this year in the Memorial League, and then he ended up coming here. Yeah. We've got a panel put together for Friday afternoon. Mike, thanks very much for agreeing to serve as a moderator for the panel. And as well, I'd like you to give yourself a little plug for Farwell for Hire, if you could, right now. We're going to try and collect a little bit of money for your cause. So what is Farwell for Hire for those fastball people who might not be aware of it?
Yeah,
I'm interviewing you.
It's a fundraiser that I do every year, and you're making it easy on me this time around. But I essentially hire myself out for odd jobs in exchange for a donation to my charity, which is cystic fibrosis, and we do research into a cure for that, and I think we're getting awfully close, and this is my kind of job to do. I'd love listening to these old stories, and talking is something that I'm pretty accustomed to.
One of the things in the 70s, we mentioned about the Chimers hosting a tournament, but on occasion they would bid for successfully in hosting the Ontario Eliminations. And in those days, you might get 20, even 25 teams, all of whom had many of them had studs for pitchers. Like they would have aces like Dick Ames in London and Steve Rogg and all kinds of other people that fastball people with good memories would recall. But when we hosted it here in Waterloo, it was better than the Canadians because there were so many good teams from Ontario competing for the right to win that tournament. It's called the eliminations, and then to qualify to go to the Canadians. Dean, you must have played in some of those.
A lot of eliminations, yes.
Yeah.
85, we played in the Canadians in Waterloo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hosted the Canadians.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes. Came third.
Yep.
Yeah. Bad coaching.
I remember another Musselman, Tiger Musselman, came up. I was involved in helping coach manage the team, and we ended up, I think we were like 5-0 during the round robin, but then we ended up losing a couple, came in, we got the bronze medal, and that was pretty good compared to the teams we played against. Dorchester, I think. And,
Dorchester, yeah.
And
yes.
I think it might have been, it was A, B, and C, breaking clutch from... or no,
that was the Canadians.
Yeah, the
Alberta.
Canadians. Yeah, Alberta breaking clutch.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was
and BC.
Yeah,
Manitoba. Yeah, there was a lot of good teams back there.
But we held our own here in this region and in the province for sure.
Yeah. But Tiger Musselman said, "Oh, that Alberta breaking clutch. They got the gold medals, but they're so envious of you guys." They went and got their gold medals, bronze, so they'd be just like you guys. So that may not be true, but...
All right, John, tell us more about the panel that you have assembled for Friday afternoon at the Navy Club and how folks can get involved.
Okay, Mike, so grateful that you're going to moderate that, and we've got 4 Chimers alumni, Vince Denemy, John Miller, Doug Neal, and Peter Brill. Now, Pete was part of the St. Clements team in the late 60s. He was probably at some of those meetings when they decided to go into the Intercity Fastball League. Pete's carved out quite a resume as a hockey manager over the years with Sutherland Cups and Junior B teams in the region here. But he also coached the Chimers at one time, and I think coached Team Sport Juniors at one time, if I
believe, yes.
recall correctly. And he was a good athlete on his own merits. And Doug Neal from Wingham. Doug Neal and Bill Hotchkiss were a couple of great fastball pitchers from the Wingham area, and they came down during the heyday of the 70s. And this was all part of Glenn Mazur's ability to be able to recruit people from near and far to come and make the Chimers so competitive. Like all the games were great, and you're right, Mike, they were low scoring. Yeah, you tried to use the bunt a lot. We were talking about bunting, so advancing them 60 feet on the base paths, and even squeeze bunts to score at home. Something you don't see too much in the major leagues anymore, but that was pretty common in those days. So Vince Denemy, who I think is quite well, and Jake Miller, John Miller, who was a member of the Chimers as a player for several years as well. And Mike, you're going to moderate them, and it's not a test. It's not how good is their memory. I think you're going to spark some conversations that are going to bring back some memories, and we'll do that for maybe 30, 40 minutes on Friday afternoon at the Navy Club at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And I had a gentleman email not too long ago wondering about some of those details. If anybody wants more details, John, or make sure they can attend, they can reach out to you by phone?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, rather than an email or anything else, just give me a call, 519, like most of us in the area here, and then 884-4050. Give me a call in the next day or two, and then we'd love to have you there. There's no admission, but we are encouraging donations for Farwell for Hire, so we... I appreciate that opportunity of giving back to the community through our event.
I appreciate the opportunity to be on the receiving end of that generosity. So again, John's number, 519-884-4050. Nice, easy one to remember. 884-4050.
We got time for one more little snippet here?
I got 30 seconds.
Okay. We look forward to having the Mazer kids there as well. So we've got Brenda, Michelle, and Dwayne. Dwayne is in North America. He resides in Germany, but the 40-year anniversary of the NCAA Cornell hockey team celebrating their championship from 40 years ago, he decided to come to Waterloo for this event.
You are a true professional. John Thompson, Dean Musselman, Chimers alumni. Dean, I'm going to see you on Friday.
Yes, you will.
Look forward to it all. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, this Tuesday, the 9th of June, just so happens to be the second Tuesday of the month already. And on the second Tuesday of every month at 11:30, we have a visit with our friends from the Canadian Mental Health Association of Waterloo Wellington for what I like to call our monthly mental health check-in. Helen Fishburne is the CEO at the Canadian Mental Health Association, Waterloo Wellington, and joins us for the conversation. Helen, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I feel like there's been a lot of exciting things happening since the last time we spoke, including the Kitchener Rangers winning the Memorial Cup, and now, of course, Farwell for Hire reaching an important milestone in the butter tart world. So these are all amazing things to be celebrated, and congratulations to you on both.
Helen, thank you. I can hardly wait to get my hands on one of those butter tarts that our friends at On-Site Computer Services sent into the station. And yeah, we had a great time out west. You know, a lot of work, a lot of travel, but the outcome, and people are still talking about it. And isn't that a nice little respite from some of the heavier things in the news from time to time, just to celebrate the success of your local hockey team?
You know, it was so inspiring to watch your team on the ice, but you also know that they are equally a champion off the ice. You know, when you think of their participation in our Talk Today program, how they're out in the community supporting, you know, issues around bullying and, you know, just mental health awareness, just modeling for our young people today, well, and frankly for everyone in our community, you know, how they manage the pressure that they're under, how they continue to support each other and lean into each other and our community. Honestly, it's amazing on and off the ice.
Yeah, it's a great partnership, and I find that every year when we dedicate some time to talking about the program, Talk Today, the Rangers' participation in that and other programs, sometimes I think I can learn a thing or two from these young men.
Honestly, they're incredible. They really are incredible, and it was just so inspiring to see them win that cup and make us all so proud here locally.
The month of June, Helen, not just Farwell for Hire month this year, but it's also Seniors Month, and June is Seniors Month every year. How does CMHA Waterloo Wellington mark Seniors Month?
Well, we every year we pick a theme, and you know, this year is really all about supporting seniors with their physical and mental health wellness, you know, wanting to make sure that they continue to be physically active, which has a direct correspondence to their mental health wellness as well. We know if seniors are more active, they're more connected, they continue to be engaged in life and in our community, they're going to continue to be, you know, as well as they can be. But we also want to highlight a really significant event or incidents that are happening with seniors across our community, and that is fraud. So this is a month, Mike, that we're also talking about, you know, protecting and educating seniors about the whole issue of fraud.
How do you go about doing that?
Well, we're actually going to host a community event, an in-person community event, in partnership with the Guelph Police Service, who have an incredible fraud squad. And it's the event is actually targeted specifically for seniors and their loved ones, or honestly anyone in our community that would like to attend, because we all need this education. So it's scheduled for the morning of Wednesday, June 17th, from 10 in the morning until 12 noon. We're hosting at the Marden Community Center, which is somewhat central in our community between Waterloo Region and Guelph Wellington. We were looking for a spot that, you know, would be accessible to folks. There's a great community center there. The session is free. And a couple things that we're going to go through, Mike, with Guelph Police Services is, first of all, why target seniors, how they're targeting seniors, like what are the actual fraud scams that they're using, how to protect ourselves and our seniors in our lives against fraud, And then, of course, from a mental health perspective, how do we support seniors, right, as they're going through, some of these new challenges in our world that we've never had to really address before? How do we, as caregivers, support seniors as well? So that's going to be the issues that we're covering. And I'm really excited about this opportunity to support our community and to really lean in and answer some of these questions.
I'm so glad you're doing that, Helen, because I've been hearing a lot lately about fraud, particularly targeting seniors, because sadly they become a vulnerable population. And these fraudsters, these scammers are getting more and more sophisticated. So the more information we can arm seniors and their families with, the better.
It really is scary, Mike, honestly. And I really mean this to say that we all need to protect ourselves. But when you think about seniors, first of all, there is just a natural declining cognitive processing speed when you're a senior. Some folks, have more cognitive losses than others when you become a senior. But just in general, it is more difficult to process information quickly. And fraudsters, frankly, rely on that with seniors. They're also, many of our seniors are isolated, right? They are in their homes or they're in communities where they're not as connected to people on a daily basis. And they have an accumulation of wealth. Not everyone, but certainly some seniors. So for all of those factors, they become a target where fraudsters want to exploit both the physiological changes as well as the situational factors. And as you know, there's an embarrassment and shame that comes along with being a victim to fraud as well, which is very difficult for everyone. It's hard to admit that you've been a victim of fraud. It's hard to talk about. People get very embarrassed, like they should have known better. But honestly, as you have said, Mike, some of these frauds and scams are so sophisticated, it is very difficult to know. And certainly in that moment where you feel vulnerable and isolated, it's even harder to know.
In keeping with the theme, Helen, of this being Seniors Month, I know that CMHA Waterloo Wellington is part of a new supportive housing program for vulnerable seniors in Guelph called Seniors on Stevenson. What's that all about?
Yeah, it's a brand new program that we've opened within the last couple months, and it's something we're really proud of. So a need emerged in our Guelph Wellington community where there were seniors that were just not doing well in our kind of regular shelter system. There are, different needs than seniors have. We're, living in that kind of housing situation with large groups of people, it just was not working. So we were actually able to repurpose one of the homes that we operate at CMHA in Guelph and create a home specific for seniors who are struggling with being unhoused or who are living precariously. It's a partnership that we developed with Stepping Stone, which is one of an amazing housing partner here in Guelph. So they have provided some housing support. We've provided the specialized mental health support through our specialized geriatric service. And we're really working together. The home can fit up to about 4 seniors. And the goal is for them to live there for a few months until we can get them on their feet, feeling better, feeling stable and supported, and then find alternative housing for them long term, in which case then we would be able to welcome more seniors into that home. It's a small home. We're using it as a pilot, but it's already showing incredible promise. And the other beautiful thing about this program, Mike, is that we've had our community step up to support us. So our corporate partners have contributed financially to us setting this home up for seniors. We have new bedding, we have new furniture, all of which has been donated. We heard from a quilting company this morning that they want to bring over quilts for each of the bedrooms in this home. Our community has heard about this program. They've been, stepping up to help us out, and we're very proud to be working in partnership to be able to support seniors differently.
I see kind of the good news, bad news side of this, Helen. I love that, CMHA Waterloo Wellington is minding these gaps, if you will. when it comes to where the need is in the community. And I guess the bad news side of that is we're talking about a demographic here, again, focusing on seniors, that is increasing in population, right? More and more older people across this country, obviously. And that means more and more need for folks like you at CMHA Waterloo Wellington.
Yeah, you're right. That's the sad truth of it. And sadly, in the shelter system, we're seeing more and more seniors who are not able to afford living based on a very, very inadequate social income, which has not increased in years, right? We've also seen seniors who have been victims either of fraud or, frankly, within their own family system. There's been issues that have just created some real hardship for seniors. So all kinds of, kind of situational and systemic issues. But more and more seniors are showing up in the shelter system, and their needs are different, Mike. So we have to respond differently. And again, we were able to repurpose some of our existing resources to be able to tap this need. But let's be honest, 4 beds is not going to be able to support our entire community. But we are very happy to be able to pilot this program and to continue to push for more resources, because we know this need isn't going to change.
I have no doubt that you are the folks to do just that too. The advocacy following this pilot project. Helen, always look forward to these chats every month. Thank you for being here again.
Thanks, Mike, and keep going with your campaign. It is so wonderful to see the support that you're offering for cystic fibrosis, which is another area that it truly needs and deserves more attention. So thank you for all your efforts there. Keep going, my friend.
I will indeed, I promise you. Thanks, Helen.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Helen Fishburne is the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association Waterloo Wellington. Joins us every month on the second Tuesday. It is the second Tuesday of every month at 11:30 as we do a little monthly mental health check-in. This being Seniors Month, that is our focus, and a focus at CMHA Waterloo Wellington. This year's theme is Ontario Seniors. Let's get moving, talking about the importance of that physical health, mobility, getting around. It helps maintain those social connections as well. And that seminar coming up in partnership with the Guelph Police Service, information for seniors and their caregivers focused on fraud and elder abuse prevention, happens next Wednesday, the 17th, from 10 until noon at the Marden Community Centre. So something to keep in mind, as unfortunately, fraud, particularly fraud perpetrated on seniors, is a growing concern. So next Wednesday, 10 until noon at the Marden Community Centre, you can take part in this free public information session for seniors and caregivers focused on fraud and elder abuse prevention. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Next weekend, the 20th and the 21st, marks KW Comic Con coming to the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. Mike Kowalski is the public relations manager with KW Comic Con and Fandom Forge Collective, joins us to talk about it. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Awesome to speak with you today.
It's great to speak with you as well. What happens next weekend, the 20th and the 21st, at KW Comic Con at the Odd?
Next weekend, we celebrate the launch of the next generation of the Kitchener Waterloo Comic Con. Previous generations have occurred at the City Hall, and we're kind of a smaller event. We're kind of boosting at this point. We're going to be at the auditorium. We are taking over one of the twin pads. This is a not-for-profit, fan-run convention celebrating basically all things pop culture. So you're going to have voice guests, you're going to have anime, you're going to have movies, you're going to have cosplay. It is going to be an awesome show.
Why such a large-scale event? What made you decide to go from those smaller events at City Hall to this larger event at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium Complex?
Well, as you know, Mike, our community's been growing forever, and we see the passion of the fans that are in the KW region. And we know that the trip to Toronto, the trip to Niagara Falls, the trip to some of the other bigger conventions is out of reach for some people, possibly even those with accessibility issues. So we wanted to bring it closer. We also wanted to use an opportunity and use our voice and with our passion to support facilities around the region. We're not for profit, so all of our profits this year are going to be going to the Waterloo Regional Health Network and the Kitchener Case Stray Cat Rescue. Food Bank will also be on site collecting donations. As we all know, it's a tough time for people right now.
Why that emphasis on the community impact, Mike?
Because that's what Comic-Con's always been about, regardless of which one you're talking about, regardless of what organization is running it. The conventions are all about community, celebrating the diversity within us, celebrating our particular passions as to what part of fandom we agree with. I myself was brought in because I'm a maker, so I was drawn to the cosplay and watching what people have done to build cosplay. That drew me into anime and started to spark a whole bunch of other interests and a group of friends that I can't possibly ever replace.
What if I've never attended a Comic-Con event before? Am I welcome to show up next weekend?
Then you are the perfect person to show up next weekend. As somebody who walked into their first one probably 10 years ago, right, as somebody actually doing media coverage, I wasn't actually there as a fan at the time. The welcoming nature of the fandom community is insane. Does it have issues? Sure, every community does. But if you show up on your own and you've never been there before, you will find somebody who's passionate about the same show you are, right? That will talk to you for hours, right? You will develop friends here.
You talk about all things pop culture. You mentioned shows. I mean, what sorts of things are we talking about here? Is it television? Is it movie? Is it comic books? Is it all of the above?
It is basically all of the above. Like, we have voice actors from One Piece, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm trying to Avatar: The Last Airbender, Sonic the Hedgehog reboot. So cartoons going back to Gen X's childhood, and the current generation that's there too. We also have the comic book artists that will be on site. They'll be signing their work. They'll be selling some of their work. We have separate content creators too, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collector, right, and Adam Corky. Right, so we're going to have a whole bunch of everything there at once. Yes, there is shopping. Yes, there is retail. We do have the exhibitors. So if you're looking for that elusive card for Pokemon, you're probably good chance you'll find it here, right? Or at least find somebody who can help you find it. If you want to see the list of exhibitors, check out our website at kwcomiccon.ca. That has 2 C's, right? We, unlike some other cons, we spell out Comic Con.
KW Comic Con, 2 C's. .ca, kwcomiccon.ca. How do we get tickets? How do we get involved, Mike?
Because we're hosting at the Odd Bear, making us use their box office, so we have to go through them. There's a link on our homepage that will take you to their box office. You can also get there through the Center in the Square.
I wish you the best of luck with the largest undertaking you've ever gone for here, and hope it's a great event next weekend. Mike, thanks for this.
Absolutely no problems, Mike. I appreciate your time.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Mike Kowalski is the public relations manager with KW Comic Con and the Fandom Forge Collective. They are growing from the smaller shows/events they would put on at Kitchener City Hall into a larger venue, taking over one of the twin pads, which obviously doesn't have the ice. So let's fill Kinsman or Kiwanis Arena next weekend and support Comic-Con, which in return is supporting the community, including our Humane Society and our Waterloo Regional Health Network. The website is kwcomiccon.ca. So instead of just Comic-Con, there are 2 C's in there. kwcomiccon.ca. That'll give you the link to the tickets where it's all taking place next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the 20th and 21st at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium Complex. Okay, we are fast approaching the noon hour, at which time we will get you your update from the 570 News Center. And then you get the opportunity to have your say during the Talkback Hour. Weigh in on the issues of the day or tell us what you think should be the issue of the day. One of the big questions is, will we hear from Kyle in the next 60 minutes? Because Kyle has been released from the penalty box thanks to our friends at On-Site Computer Services who bought enough 50-50 raffle tickets in the Farwell for Hire 50-50 today to get the jackpot up over $70,000. Not only does that mean I can eat a butter tart, but Kyle comes out of the penalty box after breaking the rules while I was away. He got a pretty light sentence again, so maybe we'll hear from Kyle. I hope I hear from you as we get into your daily talkback hour. The next 60 minutes belong to you on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk bad.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk bad.
And your daily talkback hour is officially underway. It's open line radio where you get to steer the conversation. Well, how about this? You put your foot on the accelerator and start the conversation. I'll do my best to steer it, okay? 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. Maybe you want to talk about people who fall asleep at NBA playoff games, presidents who fall asleep at NBA playoff games. I think that makes the story twice as interesting. Maybe you want to talk about homelessness. I talked a bit about it this morning. I think I've got more to say, and you may have heard the story or seen this story on the news last evening about folks who are now without what you would call typical shelter, living in RVs in carpool lots across Ontario, including not far from us right here in the region of Waterloo. What is that telling us about the state of homelessness? I'll tell you one thing real quick that I love about it. Provincial property, baby. Let's put this problem where it lies. Yes, the region and a municipality has some role in this, but if we do not start getting support from upper levels of government, then anything we want to build, we are building on a very unstable foundation, in my opinion. So there's that. And heck, if you just want to talk about butter tarts, you know I'm here for it, as long as they are raisin free. Your talkback hour is officially underway, so don't be shy. Make that call and be a part of the conversation. We're going to start today with Rory, who is with us on the phones. Good afternoon, Rory.
Good afternoon, Mike. Hope all is well, my friend.
Things are just terrific. Thank you. How are they with you?
Well, not too bad. However, Mike, I'd like to comment on the property bill situation. Mike, when people can't pay the tax bill on the home they already own, affordability isn't just tight. The system is broken. And families in this region are getting crushed. And governments keep reaching deeper and deeper into our pockets with increasing taxes each year, and then act shocked when the bills don't get paid. Mike, this isn't a budgeting issue. It is a cost of government crisis. And, Mike, I hope it's a clear wake-up call for political leaders to act now before it becomes incumbent upon us as taxpayers and voters to send a clear message in October that this community needs change. And, Mike, I'll leave you with this. My property tax bill is just shy of $6,700 for 2026, which is an increase of approximately $363 over the year. And that may not sound like a lot, but this is the type of increase that happens year after year after year, and it is simply unsustainable at this point in time, Mike.
Rory, really well said. I'm happy to hear from you on the show today. And why don't we review what Rory is talking about? It was one of the notes I made during the Farwell Show 5, which is something I do in and around 9:15 every morning as we're getting the show underway. Just 5 things I think you might be interested in knowing for the day. And one of the things I shared with you actually stemmed from a call during the talkback hour yesterday. And Camilla called the show. We had been talking at the time about Cambridge Mayor Jan Liggett and her decision to censor a speaker at the pride flag raising event at Cambridge City Hall. And Camilla called us to say, listen, I'm less worried about Mayor Liggett's behavior than I am about unpaid property taxes.
I think my biggest concern over anything is I sit on the Cambridge Advisory Board, and I'd like to know why the city is owed over $59 million in back property taxes. That's more concerning to me than what happened last week.
So that's what Camilla says, $59 million in Cambridge, unpaid or overdue property taxes, to which Kitchener says, hey, Cambridge, hold my beer. 12,000 notices have gone out in Kitchener this year, aiming to collect $84 million. So quick math for me says $25 million more in taxes owed since May the 1st. And last year, Kitchener had to send out 11,000 such notices. So again, 11,000 to 12,000. We're talking about roughly a 9% increase in overdue taxes year over year. I feel luckier, relatively speaking, than I usually feel. Look, property taxes are probably the biggest pain in the derriere. They are the most regressive form of tax. They just continue to go up, and there ain't nothing that you can do about it. There's not a consumption tax associated with this, right? You pay the HST, you pay other taxes, you pay an income tax because you have an income, etc. Those are all based on things that you have some control over. If you want to save money in sales taxes, you can buy less stuff, just by way of example. But when it comes to property taxes, they are assessed on your home, and that's it. And when I say I feel luckier, because I've complained about this quite a bit with property tax increases since I first bought my place back in 2014. Really, over the length of time that I have owned, the taxes have probably gone up between 3 and 4% annually, average across the board. And that jives because the city of Kitchener in the last decade plus has done a very good job of keeping property tax increases at or near the rate of inflation. In my humble opinion, the folks in Kitchener have done a very good job at keeping those property taxes near the rate of inflation. But again, the property tax goes up year over year over year. And if your wages don't go up with inflation, then you have less real money year over year. And another way to look at this is, so I'm again going back to 2014 in Kitchener. So somewhere up around 40% over those dozen years that I've owned. How about in Waterloo? Rory says it's unsustainable where he is. I happen to know he's in Wilmot Township. Waterloo over this term, just this term of council, your taxes are up 26%. That's 2/3 of the way to what mine have gone up in a decade plus in Kitchener. That's a heck of a lot. In Kitchener, the average tax bill runs from about $4,400 for your typical bungalow up to more than $7,000 for what they'd call an executive home, a much larger home. I'm in that bungalow side, and that's right around where we're paying. We're about $4,600 a year, which feels pretty onerous. I just got my bill for the second quarter or the second half of the year because I pay quarterly with my Kitchener property taxes. But back to Rory's point, think about this. 12,000 property owners in the city of Kitchener alone have not paid their taxes since May, which is when the first installment would have been due. So what is that telling us about our ability in this region to meet the cost of living? And again, because this is such a regressive form of taxation, I'm not blaming the municipalities. I get why we do it and what's involved in it. But because this is just something that goes up through no fault of your own, what happens when your income is not keeping pace? For working Joes and Janes like me and Rory, and I'm thinking now particularly as well of seniors. And I've heard from multiple seniors who have said, I am being priced out of my home in this region. this is Seniors Month. We talked about it with the Canadian Mental Health Association in the last half hour. And I'll tell you what, tomorrow on the show, just a little heads up, we're going to be talking to Supportive Housing of Waterloo. This is an excellent organization that has really put its laser focus on seniors because this is usually an overlooked demographic when it comes to homelessness or precarious housing. If you don't have a pension of some sort, or your OAS and Canada Pension Plan are not keeping pace with the increases in property taxation, what's the end result? You're out of your home. And I think we're seeing these 12,000 notices that Kitchener has had to send out. I'll bet you that's just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. How many folks have ended up moving in with family members, children, right? Because they can no longer afford the places they once called home. Challenging times. And I don't think Rory is wrong. I think this has to be directed at every level of government when it comes to the very high cost of living in Canada. Do we have a high quality of life? I would argue still yes. But is the cost of living becoming unsustainable for some, if not many? Well, go to your nearest carpool lot and count the number of RVs. Then you tell me. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Speaking of housing and sustainability, one is certainly on the cost front. Another is, of course, on the sustainability of our communities as we grow and grow towards 1 million people. We've got 700,000, give or take, people in this region right now. And it seems every time you turn around, there is another high-rise condominium being built. That was the subject of a story this morning on All News Mornings with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas. And our reporter Josh Piercy was talking about the university neighborhood in Waterloo, in and around both the University of Waterloo and Wilfrid Laurier University. A development that is proposed that will allow for 3,000 units of housing. But to get 3,000 units of housing, we are talking 12 towers, 12 of them, a full dozen, and almost 3,000 units of housing in that university area. They continue to move forward with this at Waterloo Council. And it reminded me of a call we got on the show yesterday during the Talkback Hour from Tammy, who lives in the Rosemount neighborhood of Kitchener and was quite concerned that in her neighborhood, a strip mall is proposed for redevelopment. This is the Krug Street Plaza at 501 Krug Street, so not far from Krug and River. And the strip plaza that is there, I would argue, is anchored by the bingo center. There's a convenience store, there's a pizza shop, I think there's a salon in there. Nonetheless, it's a pretty nondescript mall as far as malls go, but when it's in your neighborhood and you have access to those things, particularly a convenience store, like, you remember the days, sorry for the tangent, but I was talking with David Drew about this yesterday. When I was a kid, corner stores were legit a thing. And I do mean on the corner of your street. I lived literally down the street from one when we were in the old North Ward, Mount Hope, Brightup neighborhood, and then just around the corner from another one. And that one that I frequently used, that corner store when I was a kid, wasn't far from two other corner stores in the neighborhood. They were just always there. So when you have that in your neighborhood and you're potentially going to lose it, I understand the concern that comes with that. The Krug Street Plaza, in fairness, isn't all that far from Frederick Mall, which has all of those things and then some, but it's a fair point. If it's right in your backyard, so to speak, right now, and it might not be there forever, you would get concerned. What's proposed right now at the Krug Street Plaza is a 4-building development of 6 stories in height, more than 300 parking spots and some green space baked in as well. But these 4 buildings will provide for more than 230 units of housing. And it just makes me think, like, every time I see a vacant piece of land, or let's call Krug Street Plaza, not trying to be unkind here, but let's call that plaza a relic of a bygone era, right? It's not something that screams 2026. But the land that it sits on, whoa, you want to know how much that's worth, right? So why not develop it into housing like this? It's proposed 4 buildings, more than 200 units of housing at 501 Krug Street in Kitchener. Again, this is the development that's on the books, and there's going to be a neighborhood meeting held over Zoom on June the 24th at 7 p.m. If this is something that would impact you, you can get in touch with the City of Kitchener. You can register and be a part of that virtual meeting on June the 24th. But this is the kind of change that our community is undergoing. These are 6-story towers. When you're talking a dozen towers in Waterloo with about 3,000 units of housing, you're talking about towers that are much, much taller. And that makes me think back on something we talked about on the show last week. Like, how about a couple of the tallest towers in the entire region proposed for Charles and Borden in downtown Kitchener? 57 stories. 57. And Clinton sent an email that I think sums it up perfectly. I'm just a little curious, Clinton writes to Mike at 570news.com, how a 57-story tower is getting the green light when they're basically in the flight path of our regional airport. We capped the height over at the charcoal site, but somehow Borden, which isn't exactly miles away, gets to shoot for the clouds. After a bit of Googling, it turns out the tallest office building in Toronto is only 53 stories. So apparently we are now out-Torontoing Toronto. The tallest residential tower there is 106 stories. So sure, we're not quite playing in that league yet, but we're definitely punching above our weight class. On the point of the airport flight path, did you know that we are kind of a one of a kind when it comes to that? We are working on planning guidelines that would protect the airspace around our airport and thus make sure that buildings aren't too tall so as to interfere with airplanes coming into and out of YKF, our Region of Waterloo International Airport. This came up at Regional Council last week. The question asked by Councillor and Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe, answered by Chris Wood, the General Manager of our regional airport.
Given the expansion plans that are under consideration, are there concerns or things that we need to be thinking about regarding flight paths and building heights? Because we know there's, in some communities, there's been increases in heights and requests from developers for ever increasing heights. So I'm just wondering how that might impact what you're trying to do out there and what we need to be mindful of. Thanks.
Through you, Chair. Yes, we are doing a lot of thinking about that. And on the presentation, you may have remembered there was a slide about aeronautical zoning, that process that we're going through right now. So we have a very good idea of where the heights need to be limited. And we are working with our municipal colleagues on the planning teams to ultimately enact those now. And we are working with Transport Canada to have those enshrined in federal legislation. So we think it's a really, really good plan that, as I said, other airports are watching closely, and we are the first airport in Canada to be given the permission by Transport Canada to zone for arrivals and departures of aircraft.
How about that? The first airport in all of Canada to be given the right to zone for arrivals and departures. Other airports watching ours So I guess right now the 57 stories in downtown Kitchener doesn't impact our airport out in Breslau. Your Talkback Hour continues. Open phone lines for you on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, there goes that opportunity. As you just heard in the update from the 570 News Center with Devin Robertson, our Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot has exceeded $70,000. The take-home prize more than $35,000. And it was at that point when the jackpot reached this level that I was once again allowed to eat my beloved butter tart. And because he misbehaved so terribly while I was away, I also decided what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and I put our regular listener, Kyle, in the penalty box because he deliberately, when I was away, invoked the name of the team that shall not be named on this show against an unsuspecting Larry Fedoruk who has no such rule. It is the one rule on this show that I adhere to very strictly. And I was thinking, okay, so now we've got the jackpot where I can eat a butter tart again, which is awesome. And Kyle can call again. Would he call today at any point? And the Talkback Hour begins. We had the jackpot thanks to on-site computer services at $70,000 before 9:30 this morning. I hadn't heard from Kyle all day. I didn't hear from him in the first 30 minutes of Talkback. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it to you because you always help me make decisions like this. I mean, again, has it been punishment enough? It amounts to 5 days. Last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then yesterday, Monday, that Kyle was in the penalty box. It doesn't seem sufficient. Should his penalty be longer? But I'm a man of my word. I did say when the jackpot got to 70,000, I could eat the butter tart. Kyle could come back on the air. And before I could even ask you the question, if the punishment was enough, Kyle is on the phone with us. Good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon. Should I go away and see if we get even higher?
Well, I just like, how do you feel? I don't feel like I suffered because I'm on a multi-butter tart a week diet over here. But I think you got off way too easy.
I don't know. It's for a good cause, Mike. I'm not really complaining about it. You know, if we can get that jackpot even higher, I'd be even more happy, right? Can I quickly talk about the Kitchener Rangers, or is it too far gone now for that?
No, it's never too far gone to talk about the Memorial Cup champions.
Do you remember what I told you 3 years ago about UC? Do you remember that little saying I told you that we have in motorsports?
I don't think so.
Remember what I told you, that if you want to win, you hire a Finn. And look what happened. UC Hocus was first European coach to win the Memorial Cup and in the OHL championship. And like I said, in Formula One, when Mika Hakkinen won the championship, the first Finnish driver to do it, they said the same thing. If you want to win, you hire a Finn. Kimi Räikkönen, same thing. And now UC Hocus, he's a legend. He's a great guy, and I'm glad that not just him and the whole staff, but like I said to Larry, everybody, everybody deserves it, Kitchener and all that stuff, right? So the other thing I want to talk about is these property taxes. How come they don't put in and maybe you would know about this, or maybe it's a good idea, but how come they don't just cap it? Like, instead of saying, voting on it every year and saying, oh, let's, raise it by 40% or 50%, why don't they go and put in the legislation and say you could only raise it by, let's say, 2.5% every year or every 2 years? How come that's not a thing that they do?
Well, it's a good question. I'll give my best answer to it. How does it feel being out of the penalty box?
It feels good. I feel nice to talk to you again, Mike. I'm actually smiling, having a coffee and delivering some stuff. So I do feel better. But if you want me to go back in the penalty box and you want to raise that jackpot, I will. I have no problem putting myself behind the bars again for that, there, buddy.
No, listen. A deal is a deal. I'm a man of my word. You are free, but you better have learned your lesson this time.
I learned. Don't worry. Maybe I should. Sometimes I feel it's like I'm calling a Boston radio station. Sometimes, you guys. Like I get confused between Toronto and Boston fans. So
stop making excuses. That doesn't help your cause.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Have a good day, my friend.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it. Look, with the exception of Wilmot Township, nobody's raising property taxes 50%. Remember when they proposed a 50.1% increase? They quote unquote whittled it down to just under 20, as I recall, or maybe 22. Anyway, the property taxes go up. Well, in the region, they've been double digits, 10%, et cetera. The idea of capping, like, I hear where you're coming from, and could I get behind that? Absolutely. I've always thought they should be directly tied to inflation. The challenge with the cap that you propose, Kyle, I would think, off the top of my head, is there are costs that a municipality will have to bear that are costs that they have no control over because of provincial downloading, for example, right? We know that's one of the biggest problems in the province of Ontario right now, that the provincial government has had a habit of making its books look better by insisting that cities pay for more of the things that the province used to pay for. So the province's books look better, and the books of the cities get that much more challenging. So if you were to cap it in some way, and this downloading were to continue, cities would be in even deeper doo-doo than they are right now. And I do believe cities are in pretty deep doo-doo. I really do. Because of the downloading, because of, in some cases, I would argue, fiscal mismanagement. I think we spend stuff on stuff that we don't need to spend stuff on at all. I think government's too big. Across the board, how many bureaucrats does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know, but you're paying, your taxes pay for all of their salaries. Like, I think we're too big. So I think there are other ways to come at this. And even if, I will just finish, we were to cap it at whatever, 2.5% or at inflation, in some instances that is still going to put people behind if they do not have savings sufficient to give them a return on investment greater than inflation, because that means every year they're falling further behind, or they don't have some sort of indexed pension plan. So it's a challenge across the board. Bottom line is, property taxes are the most onerous kinds of regressive tax you can apply on an individual and, or in this case, I guess, their property. And the numbers show, given the amount of overdue tax payments right now in the region, that more and more of us are having a hard time making those property tax payments. And that is, I won't go so far as to say frightening, but I will say concerning. Back to the phones here on Talkback. Robbie English, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How the devil are you?
Who, what now?
Hey, I said, how the devil are you?
How the devil are I? See, I'm usually good with your accent. That must be on Friday nights after hockey games. I lost you a little bit there. I'm great. How the devil are you?
I'm all right. So you're missing me then if you've forgotten what I sound like.
I know how you sound like, but sometimes I need an interpreter. You know what I mean?
Just smile and nod like that's all I do when I don't understand somebody.
Okay.
Just touch your base to say hi. And go Rangers. Oh, my God. I don't think I've spoken to you since we won the Cup. But I got a question for you. Listening to you going on about Kyle and the team that should remain nameless. See, I as a Leaf fan, don't have a problem with them. But my problem is with the Ottawa Senators. I would rather the team that shall not be mentioned win than the Senators do. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm not a real Canadian. But that's why. But anyway, the NHL is irrelevant because the team that we will speak of, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I love them as much as you do. They're a poop show. They really are. Last year, NHL, this season, and last season, I don't give a monkeys. I watch the scores on CP24 the next day, and I go, yay, or oh, really? But who is your OHL team who should not be named?
I don't have one.
Apart from when you're working.
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No, I used to treat the London Knights like that, and then somebody called and said, you know, your late great mentor, Don Cameron, would not be pleased with you speaking ill of another team of teenage hockey players. And so I have stopped with that, and every one of those OHL teams gets my full support. But the Rangers get most of it.
Okay, there you go. I was driving around and thought, I'm going to buzz his ear and see what he says.
Yep, I used to give the Knights a really hard time, but when somebody said that Don would not be at all pleased with that, I would never want to disappoint Don. I didn't want to in life. I don't want to in the afterlife.
Well, and we've spoken on many an occasion about it. Of course, I used to have numerous different disparaging names for the Knights, but I got to be honest. After this year's playoffs, the amount of Knights fans, I know that two of their beauty boys were on our team, but I kind of changed my mind a little bit. London Knights fans, right across the board, as soon as their team was out, they were behind Kitchener. I think the days are done. I think the peace talks work. So now we got to pick somebody else. I'm going with either Erie or Brantford.
Okay.
But I'll make my decision next season.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Mike.
Good hearing from you today. You know, the irony is Don was also a fan of the team that shall not be named. So I guess my interests in not disappointing Don in life or the afterlife only go so far. But if it's one thing that this experience taught me this year, with the Kitchener Rangers having as dominant a team as they did and winning it all, it's how special it is to do that. I still cannot get over the feeling of watching the team that I love so much win that championship. And I hope every one of my colleagues at some point gets the chance to experience it. Do the London Knights appear to be hogging that opportunity the last little while? Sure. But I hope everybody gets a chance. So when somebody's getting a chance, I'm going to celebrate their opportunity to do that because, gosh, is it fun. Oh, my goodness. So that's my take on that. But yes, sorry, Don, still love you. The team that shall not be named will remain the team that shall not be named. Rudy is next on Talkback. Hello, Rudy.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Glad it stopped raining. Anyways, what I'm getting at is now, yesterday at the end of your day, you were saying about the Krug Street Plaza. Something's going to happen there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate due to that. One of the shops there is called the Alpine Cafe. And they make the same type of stuff, if you remember the Cafe Mozart, used to be on Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And they made great tortes, like Austrian, German tortes, like, Black Forest cake and stuff like that. And that place makes that stuff, too. And it's sad to hopefully they move somewhere else. But I know the lady that runs it isn't that young either. So hopefully they don't just shut down.
Rudy, I appreciate the call. And, the Duke of Wellington would be a great example in Uptown, right? Out of the old atrium building on Herb or fronting Herb onto a street front location on King Street South and still thriving. Also, to my friend Desi, I mean, oh my gosh, selling the pub that we've all enjoyed for so long, the Duke, but going from employee to owner, and I get it. It's not an easy business to be involved in. And Rudy mentioning what we talked about yesterday with the Krug Street Plaza is always a good reminder to me that I love to think of you listening for 4 hours every day, hanging on every word that is spoken on this show. But it was just earlier this hour, and Rudy is obviously just touching base now, and that's totally fine. I get it. You've got other things to do, and you check into the show when you can and when you want to. And yes, it is happening. There is a proposal anyway for a 4-apartment building development, 6 stories in height, 232 units of housing, where the Krug Street Plaza currently sits. There's going to be a virtual public meeting to learn more about it on Wednesday, the 24th of June at 7 p.m. So if you've got an interest in the Krug Street Plaza and its future, just make note of that public meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. This is your Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just thinking on one of the dominant themes They're connected themes on Talk Back today. Property taxes, the continual increases, and the increasing difficulty with which many of us are having paying those property tax bills. And of course, the more places there are to live, the more property taxes that are being collected. Waterloo is looking at a dozen apartment tower, condominium tower proposal cluster of these towers in the University District, some 3,000 units of housing there. We've got a 57-story tower, which would be the tallest in the region, proposed for Borden and Charles and Kitchener. There is a proposal to eliminate the Krug Street Plaza and turn it into a 4-apartment building complex of 6 stories in height. And in Waterloo, so long St. Columba Church. Remember when the city of Waterloo bought that property? The intention initially was to turn it into an arts hub. That was quickly shelved. Now it's going to be housing. I believe Stack Townhouse is going there, but either way, it's going to be housing on that site. And crews are on site at Lincoln and Mayfield in Waterloo, and the St. Columba Church will be no longer. They're going to begin the demolition. So there you go. At the times, they are a-changing around these here parts. We continue Talk Back with Greg this afternoon. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Mike, just a question on all this housing. So say that 57-story thing gets built, Krug Street, whichever. Where currently are 57 stories worth of people and 200 units worth of people that they are then hoping can afford and move into this and that need it? Like who are they filling it with?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, Greg, because you're right. The theory goes the more supply we create, the lower the demand, thus the lower the price. But you can be sure that nobody is moving into there from the corner of Weber and Victoria, for example. So I'll tell you what usually happens with buildings like this. What usually happens is they are bought by investors and they rent them out.
Okay, so basically it's nothing affordable coming. or with all this affordable housing crisis kind of thing, it just sounds like it's going to be more that's not affordable, really.
There is an element within the Waterloo proposal. I'm pretty sure I heard 3%, but either way, yeah, affordable is in the eye of the beholder, right? Your wallet versus mine, but not a lot anyway in the way of affordable, no.
And probably not a lot of people currently in KW are going to go rushing to them. So in other words, it's grow, bring more and more and more in again. That's their
exactly.
Idea. They want to, and then really clog up the city some more. So I don't know. I just don't get it. But I just wondering, where are the people that they're expecting will come, rushing to these things?
I got you, Greg, and you're not the only one that feels that way. This is growth, and we are seeing it happen before our eyes. Tom, you're going to get the last word on Talk Back.
Okay, how are you?
Good.
Are you watching any of the games?
Which games?
The Vegas?
Who cares?
Well, you're supposed to be.
Why?
And knowledgeable
supposed to
hockey.
Be.
And what we did,
I'm knowledgeable. I'm knowledgeable enough to know that I don't care about Carolina or Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad for Marner. We had a chance to see him. Like people, even in the Jays, when they weren't playing that well, they still went to see Doc Holliday pitch. So he was a tremendous player, and it's too bad that it happened like this. But nothing surprises you with these guys at the head office there at Leafs.
You're right about that. And I'm having a hard time cheering for Mitch Marner just because of the way he treated his teammates on the way out the door, dropping F-bombs in the playoffs last year. And where was this performance when Mitch Marner was a Maple Leaf? So I am a little bit stubborn that way. I have been paying attention to the games. They've been rather entertaining. I'm cheering for Carolina for what it's worth. That's probably the kiss of death. Although my Rangers won this year, so maybe a team that I cheer for will actually win. A quick reminder as we wind down the hour today. It's only the Tuesday show, but looking ahead to Friday, All Request Friday is All Request Pride Day this week. So send us your favorite requests under the Pride theme. That's right. They can be gay musicians. They really can. Send me an email, Mike at 570news.com to get your request in for All Request Pride Day. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9. You are invited to the conversation then. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.